Shocking archaeological discoveries, once in 1,000 years, captured on camera, stun the world. In the field of archaeology, discovering fragments of bones or traces of people who died thousands of years ago is not uncommon for scientists. These remnants not only help us understand the past more clearly, but also open a door to explore the unsolved mysteries surrounding the lives and deaths of our ancestors. However, some discoveries leave archaeologists shocked due to the disturbing nature they bring. These bone fragments are not just artifacts, they are vivid memories of pain, suffering, and horrific tragedies. In some cases, when excavating an ancient burial site, scientists uncover strange signs, such as brutality in the deaths of the deceased or burial practices unlike any rituals known in history. So, what chilling discoveries have archaeologists made in recent years? Let's explore them now. Evidence of Neanderthals eating their own kind. In 2010, a chilling archaeological discovery shocked the scientific community when researchers announced the discovery of a Neanderthal family skeleton found in a remote cave in Spain. What made this discovery especially haunting were the clear signs indicating that these bones were victims of cannibalism, a practice that had previously only been speculated. The skeletons belonged to a family consisting of 3 women, 3 men, 3 teenagers, 2 children, and 1 infant. They might have become a meal for another group of Neanderthals during the harsh days of history. The marks on the bones suggest brutality in how they were killed and then consumed. This raises a chilling question about the survival instincts of Neanderthals. Were they willing to sacrifice their own kind when faced with resource shortages and hunger? According to archaeologists, this was not the only instance of cannibalism within Neanderthal communities. Their research suggests that when living conditions became harsh, food was scarce, and famine threatened survival, Neanderthals might not hesitate to turn on their own to survive. This paints a dark picture of a society in which the will to survive could turn people into brutal beings devoid of humanity. This discovery not only challenges our understanding of human history, but also forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about our own survival instincts. By now, do you feel a chill running down your spine? The burned skeleton in the royal tomb. The story of Philip III, Arrhidaeus, the half-brother of Alexander the Great, is one of the most painful tragedies in ancient Greek history. After Alexander's death, Philip III was thrust into a life of humiliation, manipulated by the political forces around him. His fate became even more tragic when he was buried, then exhumed to be burned, and finally reburied in a royal tomb. This constant changing of his final resting place raises the big question: what could archaeologists possibly find left of Philip III after such brutal actions? Recently, a royal tomb was discovered in Greece containing the burned bones of a man and a young woman. Through analysis, scientists believe this could be the resting place of Philip III and his wife, Queen Eurydice, who was also murdered under the orders of Olympias, Philip II's stepmother and Alexander the Great's mother. These bloody events made Philip III's life nothing short of a continuous tragedy. However, some researchers propose a different theory, that these remains might belong to Philip II, Alexander's father, and the woman buried with him might be Cleopatra, Philip II's last wife. Note that this Cleopatra is not the famous Egyptian queen. Of course, when a discovery is made about the past, many opinions and theories are proposed, so in this case, the debate over the identity of the man in the tomb remains unresolved. Scientists are still unsure whether the remains belong to Philip II or Philip III. Additionally, the question of whether the skeleton was burned before or after the muscles and organs decayed is still an unsolved mystery. However, I personally suspect that regardless of who it was, the charred skeleton remains the last trace of an emperor, once the heir to Alexander's greatness, but who ended his life in humiliation and sorrow. The 4,000-year-old skeleton of the first person with Hansen's disease. For a long time, Hansen's disease was considered an irreversible disgrace. Those who contracted the disease not only had to endure the brutal symptoms, but also faced stigma and ostracism from society. While today leprosy is no longer as dangerous as it once was and is treatable, in the past, the disease was associated with immense pain and profound loneliness. The symptoms of the disease caused severe deformities in the bodies of its victims, making them targets of rejection. Thus, Hansen's disease was not just a physical ailment, but also a social curse, leading sufferers to be treated as outcasts, unaccepted by society. One notable archaeological example of this stigma is the 4,000-year-old skeleton discovered in India. This is the oldest evidence of Hansen's disease, offering an insightful glimpse into how ancient societies treated those afflicted. The skeleton shows that the person with the disease was buried in a rock cavity, away from healthy individuals, clearly reflecting the social ostracism of that time. Ancient Hindus had a tradition of cremating the dead, and only those deemed unworthy, considered impure, or socially unacceptable were buried. Notably, the skeleton of this Hansen's patient was covered in cow dung ash, a detail reflecting Hindu religious beliefs. Cow dung ash was considered sacred and pure, embodying the belief that only such substances could cleanse impurity. Burying the diseased person in such conditions was not only an act of isolation, but also reflected social class distinctions, health discrimination, and deep stigma that society imposed on those with leprosy for centuries. Today, with advances in medicine, leprosy is no longer a deadly curse. However, the story of the stigma surrounding leprosy in history serves as a reminder of the indifference and discrimination society can impose on those deemed different. The claw of a giant moa. In 1986, a strange discovery astonished the archaeological community when a research team uncovered a giant claw in Owen Mountain, New Zealand. At first, archaeologists could not immediately determine the cause or origin of the find. However, after thorough research, they identified that the claw belonged to a giant bird species called the moa, which lived thousands of years ago during the prehistoric era. The moa was a flightless bird, colossal in size, reaching heights of up to 12 feet and weighing several hundred pounds. This unique species was native to New Zealand and went extinct around the 15th century. The discovered claw is one of the valuable pieces of evidence regarding the existence of this legendary bird, helping scientists better understand the wildlife of prehistoric times. However, another mysterious and hard-to-explain discovery emerged during an excavation in Israel. Archaeologists uncovered hundreds of infant skeletons while excavating a subterranean drain system beneath an ancient Roman bathhouse. This discovery was odd and left many researchers puzzled. It raised numerous questions about why these infant skeletons were found in such an unexpected location. Experts speculate that this could be a sign of a religious ritual or an act of brutality from the past, but to this day, no satisfactory explanation has been found for this. Notably, the discovery of infant remains in a structure like a Roman bathhouse only adds to the mystery, making it even more intriguing and challenging the curiosity of humanity. Both the discovery of the moa's claw and the infant skeletons in the ancient bathhouse are strange marks from the past, opening up unsolved stories. If these discoveries compel us to reflect on the unexplored mysteries of the ancient world, it would not be an exaggeration. Vampires in Venice. In 2006, the field of archaeology once again stirred the online community when researchers announced the discovery of a mass grave just outside the city of Venice, Italy. What particularly stunned the researchers was that one of the bodies in this grave had a large brick stuffed in its mouth. This was not an isolated event, but rather, according to experts, an ancient local custom intended to prevent evil spirits, especially vampires, from rising from the dead and continuing to harm the living. It is known that vampire legends have existed in many cultures across the world, and the people of Venice were no exception. In their belief system, if someone died from illness or any other cause that made them likely to become a vampire, they would be punished by having a brick placed in their mouth to prevent them from rising again and sucking blood. The brick was not just a means of stopping the undead, it was also considered a protective measure to safeguard the community from misfortune and to ensure that the deceased soul could not linger in the mortal world. Archaeologists believe this is the clearest evidence showing that the vampire legend had reached Venice long ago. While vampire stories have appeared in history books and in various cultures, the discovery of such a specific method of dealing with the dead provides a vivid testament to the deep belief ancient people had in the existence of these mythical creatures. This discovery raises many fascinating questions about how beliefs and legends influenced human life in the past. It also highlights the profound fear people had of death and restless spirits, serving as a reminder of how mystical stories can reflect the anxieties of an entire culture in the past. The headless skeleton of a circus performer. Evidence of human sacrifice can be found all over the world, but a sacrificial site discovered in 2008 in Syria appears to be quite unique. In an abandoned and dusty area, archaeologists uncovered a strange and mysterious sight: human and animal skeletons arranged deliberately. What stood out was that 3 human skeletons lay side by side, but without heads. This was a groundbreaking discovery, as it raised questions about the practice of human sacrifice and ancient rituals. Based on signs of trauma on the bones and excessive development around the ligaments and bones, researchers hypothesized that one of these 3 skeletons could belong to a circus performer. What made this discovery even more intriguing was that the house where the skeletons were found was abandoned, filled with dust, and showed no signs of life. All that remained were the headless bodies, creating a chilling and enigmatic scene. Archaeologists suspect that these skeletons might be the result of a sacrificial ritual, where animals and entertainers were sacrificed for religious purposes or to pray for good luck, good harvests, or protection from gods. Another theory proposed is that these skeletons could be victims of a natural disaster or a sudden attack that left the entire house in chaos. Whatever the true cause may be, this discovery remains an important clue, opening many questions about ancient rituals, customs, and beliefs that were formed thousands of years ago. The practice of human sacrifice, while recorded in many different cultures, makes us reflect on the complexity and darkness of the past, doesn't it? 700-year-old ancient tomb found under a sweet potato field. In 1953, in a small village in Hubei province, China, a farmer was harvesting sweet potatoes when he suddenly discovered a small hard object in the ground that was emitting a faint glow. After cleaning off the dirt, he realized it was a jade hairpin. The hairpin was intricately designed, with soft and clear carvings. While the farmer didn't know much about jade, he could sense that it was a valuable artifact. Believing that something unusual was buried in his sweet potato field, he immediately brought the jade hairpin to the local authorities. After studying the artifact, archaeologists in Hubei concluded that the owner of the hairpin must have been a member of the royal family or nobility, as common people would not have had access to such valuable items. Soon after, the local museum sent an archaeological team to investigate the site, and they indeed uncovered a 700-year-old tomb beneath the sweet potato field. Inside the tomb, the team found 2 coffins. Both were exceptionally well preserved, with intricate carvings still visible on the wood, leaving the archaeologists in awe. However, that was not the most surprising discovery. Upon opening the first coffin, the team found the perfectly preserved body of a woman with no signs of decomposition, and her body was immersed in liquid. Just a few minutes after opening the coffin, the body suddenly began to change. The limbs and abdomen began to swell, and her tongue stuck out, a phenomenon that had also been observed with female corpses found in the Mawangdui tomb in China. The face of the corpse, which had previously been intact, became so distorted that it was unrecognizable. The archaeologists were terrified. Witnesses said that the woman's abdomen swelled like a balloon about to burst. However, shortly after, the body began to shrink and rapidly decomposed. This process happened in just a matter of minutes, leaving many of the onlookers stunned and confused. According to Kulishi, a Chinese information site, medical experts provided an explanation shortly thereafter. It turned out that the body had not been properly preserved, and without proper sealing of the coffin, groundwater seeped in. The body, soaked in water, had not been preserved correctly from the beginning, causing bacteria to thrive, including gas-producing bacteria, which are a type of aerobic bacteria that require oxygen to produce energy. Therefore, when the coffin was opened, the corpse immediately absorbed a large amount of air, causing it to swell. Then, due to changes in pressure, the gas inside the body escaped, causing the corpse to shrink and quickly decompose. The archaeologists found the only clue to the identity of the female tomb occupant on a wooden plaque inside the coffin, which was inscribed with the words, Madame Tan. So, who was Madame Tan? The archaeologists searched for her name in historical records but found no trace of her. This is understandable, as in feudal society, a noblewoman's status was often not well documented, so finding records was highly unlikely. The experts then placed their hopes on the second coffin. Fortunately, inside the second coffin, they found a plaque revealing the name of the male occupant, Huang Chengkun, who was born during the Song dynasty, 960 to 1279, and passed away during the Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368, at the age of 78. The male occupant was an official equivalent to a modern-day mayor. The tragic remains of the 1952 plane crash victims. In 1952, an aviation disaster occurred when a C-124 Globemaster aircraft crashed on November 22 during a flight from McCord Air Force Base in Washington to Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska. The plane was carrying 41 passengers and 11 crew members. The accident took place under extremely harsh weather conditions, making the search and rescue operations incredibly difficult. Although search teams made efforts to locate the plane, the poor weather conditions prevented them from finding any bodies for a long period of time. This tragedy seemed to be forgotten until June 2012, when a group of soldiers training on a glacier discovered a yellow life raft. Among the items found on Colony Glacier were a Buddha statue, a flight suit, several postage stamps, and a pilgrimage itinerary to St. Patrick's Cathedral in Washington, all of which connected the items to the crash victims. This discovery led to a large-scale investigation and search operation, supported by helicopters from the Alaska National Guard. In 2012, pieces of the aircraft were found near the Gannett Mountain area, confirming that it was indeed the C-124 that had crashed in 1952. Scientists from the Armed Forces DNA Lab began the process of identifying the remains of the victims. As of now, 17 military personnel have been identified, and the search continues with the goal of returning the remains to their families. According to the U.S. military, the search will continue until all missing individuals are found and identified. Although nearly all of the remains have been identified, 9 people have yet to be recognized. This search effort is expected to last several more years, as rescue teams continue to search for aircraft wreckage in the area around George Lake. This is undoubtedly a deeply tragic but also heartwarming story, as the efforts to locate and identify the remains have brought hope to the families and loved ones of the servicemen who perished in this aviation disaster, now 60 years after the accident occurred. The 2,000-year-old tomb of the Sleeping Princess. One of the most fascinating recent archaeological discoveries is the 2,000-year-old tomb of a woman known as the Sleeping Princess, found in the ancient city of Aksum, Ethiopia. When archaeologists opened the tomb, they discovered the woman's skeleton in a reclining position, with her arms resting on her chin and wearing a beautiful copper ring. She was buried while still gazing at an extraordinary Roman copper mirror. This indicates that, at the time of her burial, she was a very beautiful and well-loved woman. Additionally, Louise Schofield, former curator at the British Museum, stated, "This woman was buried alongside valuable copper items and intricately crafted cosmetics and jewelry. The woman wore thousands of tiny beads and a beaded belt made of luxury items, suggesting that she held a high social status during her time." The ancient tomb was found along with special artifacts dating from the 1st or 2nd century during a 6-week excavation in Aksum. The artifacts included many ornate pieces of jewelry, such as a necklace made of thousands of multicolored beads, Roman glass beads, and a glass perfume bottle. Next to the skeleton were 2 intact drinking cups, one of which was designed to catch the final tears of the deceased. Researchers are still working to analyze the woman's age and the cause of her death. Furthermore, during the excavation, a clay pot was discovered, likely used to hold food and water for the deceased as they journeyed into the afterlife. Scientists believe that this discovery will provide new insight into the eating habits of ancient peoples. The Aksumite kingdom, which existed from around 100 BC to 940 AD, was a powerful and wealthy empire in northern Ethiopia, situated along the trade route between the Roman Empire and ancient India. It was also the city of the legendary Queen of Sheba and the center of the Aksumite civilization, one of the greatest places in the ancient world. Aksum dominated the Red Sea coast until the end of the 9th century. It was influenced by the coast of the Gulf of Aden to the Zayla Bay on the northern coast of Somaliland. Therefore, this new discovery is sure to provide evidence that the Romans traded with the Aksumite kingdom for hundreds of years, earlier than previously thought by scholars. A giant human skeleton, recently discovered in the Nevada desert, shocks scientists. Every land and mountain where people have set foot and lived has its own stories and legends, often filled with mystery. Sometimes, these stories are simply local legends with no concrete evidence to support them. However, the legend of the giants in the Nevada desert is different. According to the tale, in a lonely cave on a mountain deep within the Nevada desert, there lived a race of giants. While many have expressed skepticism, dismissing it as a fabrication, others have valid reasons to dig deeper and attempt to unravel this unbelievable story. Among them, many archaeologists over the past century. Native Americans in Nevada have inhabited the area around Humboldt Dry Lake and the surrounding lands for over 4,000 years. According to oral traditions passed down through generations of the Paiute tribe, it was the guano miners in the early 1900s who first discovered the remains of a giant human skeleton in the area around and inside Lovelock Cave, Nevada. The Paiute tribe named these giants they believed lived in the area the Site Ka. Among the bones discovered, the guano miners also found numerous artifacts created by humans. Unfortunately, many of these were destroyed, lost, or sold. However, the area surrounding Lovelock Cave was so rich in artifacts that despite the loss of many, archaeologists have still uncovered around 10,000 invaluable items over the years. Legend even claims that red hair was found. Not only was the hair color of the Site Ka unusual considering their location and race, but the skeletons themselves also raised numerous questions and mysteries with no answers. Some skeletons were found to be over 8 feet tall, much taller than members of the Paiute tribe or any other known human group. There were also traces of smoke from fires in Lovelock Cave, indicating that a civilization once thrived there. So, what happened to the red-haired giant people of the Lovelock Cave? While theories from both archaeologists and locals clash, Paiute legends suggest they were a cruel race of giants. It is believed that they often set traps, kidnapped, and harmed other indigenous groups. Eventually, the Site Ka were said to have been trapped and died in the cave. The Lovelock Cave area has since attracted many curious visitors and has become a tourist spot. A 40-minute drive, along with a guide, will take you to this part of the Nevada desert. Additionally, if you're passionate about archaeology, you can learn more about the legend by visiting the Humboldt Museum in the area. Though many giant skeletons and artifacts have been returned to the local people, the museum still houses important relics of the mysterious civilization, including replicas of the Site Ka skeletons. To this day, debates continue on whether the beings that once inhabited Lovelock Cave were truly giants, where they came from, and what exactly happened to cause their extinction. What do you think about the existence of giants? As for me, I believe they existed. In the past, archaeologists have provided many convincing pieces of evidence proving their existence. The video below will show a few examples of these discoveries. Let's take a look at these pieces of evidence. Giant human skeletons, measuring 10 feet found in Borzomsky Gorge. Recently, scientists made a strange discovery that has left the research community astounded. Specifically, in Borzomsky Gorge in Georgia, they uncovered giant human skeletons dating back 24,000 to 25,000 years. What is particularly remarkable is that these skeletons belong to individuals who stood as tall as 10 feet, an extraordinary height compared to modern humans. Experts confirm that this is evidence supporting the long-debated hypothesis of the existence of giants in human history. Abesalam Vekua, a renowned archaeologist from the Georgian Academy of Sciences, believes this discovery is of great significance. Previously, scientists had hypothesized the existence of a tall human race living in the region between Asia and Europe, Eurasia, tens of thousands of years ago. However, no convincing evidence had been found until now. The discovery of giant skeletons in Borzomsky Gorge is the first tangible proof that could completely change our understanding of human history. One of the most notable features pointed out by academician Vekua is the femurs of these skeletons. They are much longer and larger than the femurs of modern humans. The skulls are also disproportionately large, indicating that these ancient people had massive, healthy bodies that were distinctly different from what we know of humans from that era. This makes the theory of giant humans more plausible than ever. Additionally, academician Vekua put forward a controversial hypothesis. These ancient people may have developed in isolation, separate from the major civilizations recorded in history. He argues that we are now facing one of the great mysteries that must be explored. This discovery is not only a major step forward in anthropology, but also opens a new chapter in the study of human origins. Even more fascinating is that the area does not only contain skeletons, it also shows signs of an ancient civilization. The tombs have been mostly destroyed by time, but traces of stone-paved paths can still be seen, proving that this area was once home to a powerful tribe. bones scattered on the ground, emerging from layers of rock eroded by small streams, make the story of these giant people even more mysterious and captivating. This discovery brings to mind another shocking event last year when German scientists found a new, previously unknown ancient human species living in southern Siberia. These consecutive discoveries show that science is getting closer than ever to unlocking the mysteries of human origins. With these new findings, we are sure to soon have answers to many unresolved questions about humanity's distant past, especially regarding the existence of giants. 5,000-year-old giant. Human skeletons found in China. In July 2021, archaeologists announced that they had discovered the skeletons of giants who lived between 4,500 and 5,000 years ago in Shandong Province, eastern China. This not only sparked curiosity about the height of these ancient people, but also raised a series of intriguing questions about their lives and civilization. Specifically, in an excavation area in Jiaojia village, archaeologists uncovered tombs containing the skeletons of men with astonishing heights. One man stood at about 6.2 feet tall, and several others were around 5.9 feet tall. These height measurements were determined based on the structure of their bones. According to Feng Hui, head of the Department of History and Culture at Shandong University, if the tallest man among these skeletons were alive today, he would certainly exceed 6.2 feet. What is particularly interesting is that these taller individuals were found in larger tombs compared to shorter individuals, which suggests that they might have had a higher social status with access to richer food sources. This implies that at that time, height differences may have reflected a stratified society, where those with better living conditions tended to be taller. In addition to the giant skeletons, archaeologists also discovered valuable items such as pottery and jade in the tombs, especially in 6 of them. These items are remnants of the Neolithic civilization and also suggest a prosperous and affluent life for the people living in the area. Another noteworthy point is that Shandong Province, where this discovery was made, is also the birthplace of Confucius, the famous Chinese philosopher, who is said to have stood at around 6.2 feet tall. In fact, Zhuge Liang, a renowned strategist in Chinese history, also hailed from this region and was described as having a tall stature. This creates an interesting link between historical giants and the culture of Shandong. Additionally, the people of Shandong are known for their impressive height. In 2015, men in Shandong were recorded to have an average height of 5.7 feet, which is taller than the national average of 5.6 feet. This may partly reflect the region's genetics and lifestyle habits. Although the reasons behind the exceptional height of these ancient men remain a mystery, many scientists believe that the rich and diverse food sources in the lower Yellow River Basin played a significant role in their development. However, in addition to the giant skeletons, the colorful pottery and jade artifacts found in the tombs also reflect a developed civilization with a prosperous and affluent life. This discovery is sure to remain a topic of interest for archaeologists and historians as they seek more clues to better understand the development of ancient civilizations. And perhaps, we will continue to uncover more mysteries about these giants in the future. Giant 7.5 feet. Sword found in ancient tomb in Japan. At the Tomio Maruyama burial mound, the largest Kofun tomb in Japan, scientists have discovered a giant sword and a bronze mirror shaped like a shield, 2 relics that are much larger than any other artifacts previously found in other ancient tombs. These items are not just ordinary burial goods, but may carry deep spiritual and symbolic significance. The sword discovered in this tomb is 7.5 feet long and belongs to the Daikoken type, an ancient Japanese sword. However, the striking thing about this sword is its unusual length, which seems more fitting for a mythical giant rather than an ordinary person. This is definitely not an ordinary item, but one with special ceremonial meaning, possibly used to ward off evil spirits, monsters, or dark forces. The curved blade, resembling a snake, evokes the ancient serpent worship found in Japanese culture. Along with the giant sword, a bronze mirror also attracted significant attention. This mirror is shaped like a shield, which is a stark contrast to the round bronze mirrors commonly found in ancient Japanese tombs. The mirror stands 25.2 inches tall and 12.2 inches wide, making it the largest mirror ever excavated in Japan. The strange patterns on the mirror are not only artistically valuable, but may also hold deep meanings related to ancient beliefs. It is known that the Tomio Maruyama tomb was built in the latter half of the 4th century, during the Kofun period, and is one of Japan's classic burial mounds. This period in history is marked by a distinctive burial practice where round burial mounds, known as kofun, were constructed to house important figures in society. The tomb itself has a diameter of about 282 feet and stands 32.8 feet tall, large enough to indicate that the person buried there held a special role in the community, possibly a giant deity. In addition to the giant sword and mirror, archaeologists also found several other burial items, such as bronze artifacts, decorative mirrors shaped like gods and animals, and everyday tools and utensils. This not only reflects the development of an ancient civilization, but also shows a culture with unique beliefs and rituals. Interestingly, the sword and mirror were likely not created for the person buried there, but may have had ceremonial purposes. Researchers believe that only the giants of legend could have used such a massive sword. These items might have been tools to repel evil spirits and protect the soul of the deceased from dark forces. Giant footprints in South African town. In 1912, in Mpumalanga, a small town located in the northeastern part of Mpumalanga province, South Africa, a hunter named Stoffel Coetzee accidentally discovered a giant footprint on a rock. The footprint, approximately 3.9 feet long, resembling a human foot, quickly attracted the attention of scientists and archaeologists. Locally called the footprint of God, this discovery led many experts to question, could this be the trace of a giant that lived millions of years ago, or is it simply a natural occurrence? At the time, Austrian archaeologist Klaus Donner and South African explorer and author Michael Tellinger visited the site to study the footprint. According to them, if this is indeed the footprint of a giant, the person would have to have been at least 23 feet tall. The footprint was made on a phenocrystic granite rock, a type of rock with a unique structure where particles of different sizes underwent various stages of condensation. Researchers believe that the footprint also underwent a similar process, which makes it highly unlikely that it was artificially created by humans. In addition to the footprint, scientists pointed out that the markings on the surface of the rock clearly show traces of continental plate movements, pushing the rock upwards. While the exact age of the footprint still requires further scientific research, experts have proposed fascinating hypotheses about its formation and significance. Some skeptics suggest that this is just a random shape created by nature. However, Michael Tellinger strongly rebuffed this idea. He quoted Peter Wagner, a mathematician at the University of Port Elizabeth in South Africa, saying, "The chance of a green alien using its tongue to lick out this shape is higher than the chance that it was created by natural erosion." While this perspective may be humorous, it also reflects the skepticism and mystery surrounding the giant footprint. Meanwhile, researcher Klaus Donner believes the footprint may be connected to strange events in Earth's past. According to him, Earth has gone through several global floods, during which most of the human and animal species were wiped out, with only a few lucky ones surviving. He also emphasized that if we do not change our current behavior and continue to destroy nature, humanity could end up bringing about its own extinction. An interesting point is that Donner also connects this footprint to the giant skeletons discovered in Ecuador. In 1964, the family of priest Carlos Vaca discovered several giant skeletons in a valley in southern Ecuador. After the bone fragments were brought to Austria for examination, experts confirmed that two pieces belonged to a giant who was about 24.9 feet tall. Although DNA could not be extracted from the skeletons, this discovery further adds to the mystery of the existence of giants in ancient history. Not only in South Africa and Ecuador, but fossilized giant bones have also been recorded in several places around the world, including Turkey and the United States. One notable discovery was the femur bones, 47.2 inches long, found in Turkey, which suggests the person was about 16.4 feet tall, and giant footprints discovered in Kansas, USA, approximately 24.9 feet long, further fueling the questions about the existence of giants. As you can see, even though many mysteries remain unsolved, these footprints and skeletons have begun to reveal a strange ancient world where giants may have once existed. Could this simply be a natural coincidence? Or is it the trace of a mysterious civilization that we have yet to discover? These questions continue to inspire researchers and enthusiasts as they explore the mysteries of history. Jotunheim, the wild land of the Nordic giants and the mystery of Mimir's well. In Norse mythology, the land of Jotunheim is an essential part of the stories about giants, powerful and mysterious creatures. Jotunheim, also known as the Land of the Giants, is located near Asgard, the home of the great gods, and Midgard, the homeland of humans. It is a rugged, remote land filled with dense forests and freezing mountain ranges. Humans cannot easily set foot there, and the creatures that inhabit Jotunheim are strange beings, quite different from humans. The giants living here survive by hunting, fishing in the icy rivers and lakes, or searching for wild creatures deep within the forests. They are described as beings with boundless strength, living by their own rules, unlike the gods in Asgard or humans in Midgard. The adventures between the gods and the giants have created many mysterious stories in Norse mythology. One of the most famous figures from Jotunheim is Loki, the trickster and clever god. Loki was adopted by Odin and brought to Asgard to live, despite having giant blood. With his cunning and shape-shifting abilities, Loki plays an important role in many Norse myths. Although a god, Loki always had a complex relationship with the giants and the events occurring in Jotunheim. In Norse mythology, Jotunheim is not only the home of the giants, but also a land full of mysteries with mystical elements. One of the most notable stories related to this land is that of Mimir's well. This well lies beneath the roots of one of the great ancient trees of Yggdrasil, the cosmic tree in Norse mythology. Mimir's well is a sacred place for the giants, believed to contain eternal wisdom. Many believe that Mimir, a giant renowned for his wisdom, gained extraordinary knowledge by drinking from this well. One of the most famous tales about Mimir's well is the encounter between Odin and Mimir. Odin, the powerful god of Asgard, yearned for infinite wisdom to rule better and understand the world more fully. Therefore, he traveled to Mimir's well and requested to drink from its sacred waters. However, Mimir set a special condition. Odin must sacrifice one of his eyes to gain wisdom. With an intense desire for knowledge, Odin agreed and sacrificed one of his eyes to Mimir. From then on, Odin became wiser, with a profound treasure of knowledge, though he was left with only one eye. This story not only reflects the wisdom and sacrifice of Odin, but also highlights the importance of Mimir's well in Norse mythology. The 200,000-year-old artifact of a giant from another species. On a scorching afternoon in the Saudi Arabian desert, as archaeologists were preparing to take a break after a long day of work, they stumbled upon an incredibly special artifact on the surface of a sand dune. It was not just an ordinary tool, but a massive stone axe dating back 200,000 years, promising to reveal secrets about the early development of humankind. The axe was discovered in the Kur Plain area, south of Alula, a region known for significant archaeological finds in the northwestern part of Saudi Arabia. What made this axe truly unique was its exceptionally large size, measuring approximately 20.2 inches in length and 3.7 inches in width. This axe is considered the largest stone tool ever excavated. It could have been used for cutting or chopping, as both sides of the axe were meticulously sharpened. Despite its size, the axe was crafted in a way that made it easy to grip and use with both hands. Archaeologists were amazed at the precision involved in creating this tool. Project director and archaeologist Umar Khan Aksoy stated that, although they couldn't determine the exact age of the axe, based on other artifacts found in the same area, they estimated it to be about 200,000 years old. The discovery became even more significant when, after collecting the massive axe, the archaeological team continued digging and uncovered 13 other smaller stone axes, all with a similar design to the large one. The team members had to remove their jackets to mark the artifacts, as they hadn't prepared for the discovery of such a rich archaeological treasure. These stone axes could be evidence of a primitive era when early human ancestors crafted their first tools for survival. So, who created these axes? This is an intriguing question raised by the discovery. Archaeologists believe that the area might have been home to several different species of humans around 200,000 years ago, including the ancestors of Homo sapiens. However, another possibility cannot be ruled out: Homo erectus. This species, also known as upright man, existed around 1.7 million years before Homo sapiens and is believed to have been the first to create tools. This represents a significant breakthrough in human evolution. Currently, archaeologists are analyzing the axes and other artifacts in the laboratory and preparing for the next excavation scheduled for early 2025 at the same site. This excavation promises to provide crucial information that will help us better understand the early technological advancements of humanity and the process of evolution over millions of years. Discovery of 742 skeletons. Archaeologists rush to flee due to this mysterious reason. 742 skeletons, 9,000 years old in Turkey. At the 9,000-year-old archaeological site of Çatalhöyük in Turkey, scientists have found a total of 742 skeletons. This serves as evidence of overcrowding, the spread of disease, violence, and environmental issues faced by the people living during the Stone Age. It was also the time when humans transitioned from a nomadic lifestyle to permanent settlement. According to Professor Clark Spencer Larson, an anthropologist from Ohio State University, Çatalhöyük was a bustling settlement starting from 7,100 BC and is considered the first known city of humankind. After about 1,000 years of existence, this city faced a tragic downfall. The evidence of a curse on the ancient city was revealed through the 742 skeletons. At its peak, Çatalhöyük was home to around 8,000 people. Researchers say that the population was so crowded that houses were built close together, and doors could not be opened as usual. Many people had to climb a ladder to get onto the roof before sliding into their homes. An estimated 25% of the 95 skeletons examined had large cracks in their skulls, indicating they had been killed by a strong blow to the head. 33% of the 742 skeletons showed signs of bacterial infections, and 13% of women's teeth and 10% of men's teeth were damaged, suggesting an unbalanced diet with too many grains compared to other foods. Conditions were especially unsanitary, as the research team discovered high levels of human and animal waste residue on the walls and floors. Overcrowding, close living quarters, and unsanitary conditions caused diseases to spread, which played a major role in Çatalhöyük becoming a city of death. Examination of the leg bones of people from later periods revealed that the residents of Çatalhöyük had to walk more in search of food. The overcrowding, food shortages, and diseases led to widespread violence in the city. This explains the skull fractures found in some of the skeletons. These ongoing tragedies spread like a curse, ultimately leading to the collapse of Çatalhöyük after 1,000 years. Çatalhöyük is considered the first urban center in the world, and the ancient people of that time endured many of the same challenges that modern humans face today. It highlights the struggles that humanity has always faced in urban life. 32 skeletons in giant pots from the 2nd century. 32 skeletons, dating from the 2nd to the 5th century AD, were found across 20 tombs with vaulted roofs. The individuals inside the tombs were not placed in coffins, but were sealed inside these giant pots. This unusual discovery occurred during excavations at the stunning 400-year-old Radosevic Palace, located on the island of Hvar in Croatia. The giant pottery found is of the amphorae type, a common vessel used by many ancient civilizations, characterized by its bulbous body, slender neck, and symmetrical structure. Inside the pots, in addition to the human skeletons, were various grave goods, including small everyday-use ceramic vessels, lamps, bottles, glass jars, coins, and other items. The giant ceramic pots help preserve everything inside perfectly. Most of the skeletons belong to children, including infants, but there are also some larger skeletons whose exact ages have not been determined. This special discovery has provided local archaeologists with entirely new insights into the pottery production technology of that period. However, the reason why these skeletons were placed in ceramic pots remains a big question, puzzling archaeologists who are still trying to solve the mystery. Panda skeleton, 2,100 years old. Chinese archaeologists have recently unearthed a mysterious skeleton dating back 2,100 years in a brick structure facing the tomb of Emperor Wen of Han. The skeleton was compared to modern species, and it was determined to belong to a rare Chinling panda. Chinling pandas are native to the Chinling Mountains, which form the natural boundary between southern and northern China. This species of panda is geographically isolated, leading to significant differences in morphology and genetics compared to the giant pandas of Sichuan. They have brown and white fur, instead of the typical black and white coloring of other panda species. Remarkably, a similar panda skeleton was also found in the tomb of Empress Dowager Ba, the mother of Emperor Wen of Han. In the past, pandas were considered a noble creature and were often offered as tribute to the royal family and foreign dignitaries. This may explain why it was placed in a special position within royal tombs. In addition to the giant panda, scientists also discovered the remains of other rare creatures such as tigers, proboscis monkeys, buffalo, antelope, ibex, and Tibetan cattle. This suggests that a sort of royal garden may have been built in the afterlife for Emperor Wen of Han. Researcher Wu Xinju from the Hubei Provincial Institute of Archaeology noted that the presence of the panda skeleton remains the most noteworthy, emphasizing the ancient connection between humans and this species. According to recent estimates, only about 300 to 400 chinling pandas remain in the wild today. See 3,000-year-old mummy found under a pile of trash. Archaeologists in Lima, Peru, have made an astonishing discovery deep beneath thousands of pounds of trash, a 3,000-year-old mummy. This specimen was found by archaeologists and a team of students from Marcos University in the United States. They said the revelation that led to the discovery was a clump of hair and a skull that accidentally emerged. However, to excavate the entire mummy, they had to dig through and remove about 7,500 kilograms of dirt and trash at the site. As they expanded the excavation area, they also found other artifacts such as corn kernels, coca leaves, and various seeds. Archaeologist Miguel Aguilar, a member of the research team, stated that the mummy had features typical of the Manchu culture, a group of people who lived between 1,500 and 1000 BC. The Manchu people were known for building U-shaped temples facing the sun. Other characteristics, such as the posture of the mummy and its position within the U-shaped temple, suggest it was a sacrificial offering to the gods. Archaeologists believe that the individual was either abandoned or sacrificed during the later stages of the temple's construction. Skeletons in a fetal position by the Nile River. Egyptian archaeologists have recently uncovered a series of unusual ancient graves along the Nile River, where the skeletons are placed in a fetal position next to artifacts over 3,500 years old. The graves date back to the second pre-dynastic period in Egypt, around 1782 to 1570 BC. According to Mustafa Waziri, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities, these skeletons were not buried alone. The graves also contained animal remains, stone artifacts, painted pottery fragments, and rare black pottery. What is particularly intriguing is that most of the deceased were positioned unusually. It appeared as though they had squatted and then remained in that position, lying sideways with their arms pulled toward their chest and their heads bowed toward their hands. Many of the graves even had stone rings around the deceased, with artifacts placed beside the skeletons inside the stone rings. Unfortunately, due to the ancient burial practices, the skeletons were not well preserved, which means the archaeologists will need more time to study and understand the historical context behind these mysterious remains. 6 skeletons found, face down in a cave. On the cliffs of Gran Canaria Island in Spain, a mystery remains unsolved. Archaeologists have discovered 6 skeletons lying face down. Some of the remains were bound and covered with stones. The identities of these individuals and the exact time of their deaths remain unanswered. According to an initial assessment by archaeologist Veronica Alberto, who leads the excavation team, it is clear that these individuals underwent a violent death centuries ago. They were not buried in the conventional sense. This burial practice represents a highly symbolic form of violence. Some of the bodies were forced onto the surface and then stones were thrown on top. Others had their hands and feet bound or were tied with straps. Additionally, these mysterious skeletons share some common features. They were all male, with strong arms, suggesting they might have participated in some form of physical activity. However, determining the exact time of death is challenging. It is possible that these are the remains of indigenous people, but due to the nature of the archaeological site, the team needs to expand the investigation to determine whether they could belong to the period after the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire around the 15th century. Currently, no objects or materials have been found to provide clues about the men's identities. Therefore, archaeologists will need to wait for results from carbon dating to provide the most accurate answers. 10-meter-long giant skeleton. The legend of giants has always brought strange stories and debates about whether they truly existed or were merely products of human imagination. In fact, there have been several recorded instances of giants or creatures resembling humans, but much larger than any known species. In 1976, near the Rosia, Montana mine, a giant human skeleton measuring 10 meters in length was discovered in a tunnel believed to be from the Hyperborea people. Many believe this is the skeleton of a giant. According to ancient Greek texts, Hyperborea was a land inhabited by people as early as 450 BC. This land was located much farther north than other regions and was the home of the Hyperboreans. Some ancient writings state that their day lasted as long as our modern 365 days, and they lived to be 1,000 years old, largely because they were free from war and disease. They lived peaceful lives, creating music and instruments. Many legends say that soldiers from the Atlantic Ocean once tried to invade and conquer Hyperborea, but they were stopped by the giant inhabitants of the region. The existence of Hyperborea has been widely debated throughout ancient history. Though there is evidence suggesting the land was real, many believe that in order to survive the constant heat of the sun, this land must have been moved to somewhere in the Arctic, possibly Siberia or northern China today. Meanwhile, the French author Robert Charroux, 1909 to 1978, believed the Hyperboreans were ancient astronauts who chose the coldest region on Earth to live, as it resembled the climate of their home planet. The Hyperborean Tunnel, also known as Tunnel 13, lies beneath the village of Cornea in Romania. Many sources suggest this tunnel was built around 5,500 years ago by the Agathyrsi people. Among the most peculiar findings in the tunnel was the discovery of a 10-meter-tall giant skeleton. At the time, scientists believed the giant had been buried there. The skeleton was later sent to Russia for analysis, but strangely, it has disappeared without a trace. Another oddity is that when the tombstone was lifted during the excavation, it revealed the entrance to a chamber. This chamber, with a 4-meter diameter, contained a spiral staircase leading down, where a mysterious violet light emanated. The origin of this violet light remains unidentified. In an attempt to understand the source of this light, a linguist descended into the chamber, but no one else was brave enough to follow him. Since then, the linguist has never been seen again. Those who were present at the time were forced to sign confidentiality agreements, which is why the secrets beneath the staircase remain a mystery. According to historical documents, the people of Romania have previously discovered giant skeletons. These large skeletons were uncovered in Sciani, in the Buzăului Mountains, where locals found remains taller than 2.4 meters alongside broken pottery. The locals then connected these discoveries to the ancient Tartarian giants. They believed these giants were the creators of 2 underground corridors beneath the Tainita Mountains. 1,500-year-old Maya Queen. Archaeologists have recently discovered the skeleton of a Maya queen dating back 1,500 years inside a mysterious pyramid in the Guatemalan jungle. It is still unclear who this Maya queen was, but the research team believes she was royalty due to the artifacts and the ceremonial burial site where she was found. This discovery suggests that there may still be the remains of a king somewhere within the pyramid complex. The 3 pyramids were found on the outskirts of Huitzna in the Holma region of Guatemala. During the excavation of a nearby watchtower, the researchers also found the remains of children who had been sacrificed. Additionally, archaeologists uncovered finely crafted pottery used to hold chocolate, with inscriptions naming the king who owned the vessels. The archaeologists noted that it was incredible to gather so much information from such a simple artifact. This discovery has provided insights into the identity and family connections of the owner of the vessel and even the time of their death. Tomb containing 17 ancient skeletons. The tomb containing 17 mysterious skeletons was discovered at the bottom of a pond outside the village of Sanguan-Miao, Zhejiang, Shandong Province, China. No one expected that beneath the calm surface of the pond lay a large ancient tomb until the water was drained and the area cleared. After the water was removed, experts discovered a tomb with a total area of about 300 square meters. What was peculiar about this find was that it seemed the tomb's owner had taken an entire farm with them to the grave. Archaeologists found many types of animal bones, including poultry, cattle bones, and the ribs of rodents. Furthermore, the experts also discovered the skeletons of 2 children. Ultimately, the experts confirmed that the tomb contained the remains of 17 individuals who may have experienced a horrific event over 1,000 years ago. Among these individuals were both men and women, old and young. Unfortunately, there are no other clues remaining in the tomb, so the identities of the 17 skeletons remain a mystery. Experts can only speculate that this tomb was likely built at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. This discovery is considered one of the most sensational finds in Chinese archaeology. 2,400-year-old mummified body found in a bog. In the mid-1950s, a Danish family, while digging peat for fuel, accidentally discovered the body of a man with many unique features. The shape of the skeleton indicated it was a man, curled up in a fetal position with a rope around his neck. Due to the well-preserved state of the body, the family believed it was a recent murder victim and immediately called the police. However, when researchers began analyzing the remains, they discovered it was the mummified body of a man who had died thousands of years ago. After years of analysis, it was revealed that the man died around 405 to 380 BC during the early Iron Age in Denmark. The victim, aged between 30 and 40, had been hanged as part of a sacrificial ritual. The body was named Talland Man after the village where it was found. The revelation of this discovery stunned everyone. Many experts have stated that the Talland Man peat bog mummy is one of the most remarkable discoveries ever made. The most striking feature of the body is the victim's face, which appears calm and serene, with no visible signs of worry. He looks as though he is sleeping and could wake up at any moment. The cause of death was determined to be hanging. Afterward, Talland Man was placed in a peat bog. This burial method was quite unusual because during that period it was common for the dead to be cremated and buried in dry soil. Scientists explain that peat bogs are different from typical wet soils. They have high acidity and very low levels of nutrients and oxygen, making it nearly impossible for microorganisms to survive. As a result, the peat bog acted as a natural coffin, preserving the body remarkably well. This is why the victim's soft tissue and external features were so well preserved, even after thousands of years under the peat. Rupkund Skeleton Lake. At an impressive altitude of over 5,029 meters above sea level, Rupkund, also known as Skeleton Lake, is a pristine body of water located in Uttarakhand, India, in the Himalayas. The lake remains nearly frozen year-round. However, on a summer day in 1942, a chilling mystery was accidentally discovered here. At that time, an Indian forest ranger named Hari Kishan Madhwal stumbled upon hundreds of human skeletons and skulls, some still partially covered in flesh. As the ice began to melt, more skulls and bones were discovered at the bottom of the lake. This skeleton lake lies at the foot of the Trisal mountain range, about a 5-day walk from the nearest human settlement. Researchers have confirmed that there are up to 800 bodies buried in this location, which has earned the nickname Skeleton Lake. Several theories have emerged about this discovery, but no conclusive evidence has been found to explain it. Many brave tourists have even ventured to the summit of the Himalayas to uncover the mystery of Skeleton Lake. This discovery occurred during World War II. Initially, British officials in India feared the skulls might belong to Japanese soldiers, possibly part of a secret invasion attempt. However, another theory suggests the bodies could be those of Tibetan traders traveling along the Silk Road who died from a plague. Some locals believe the site is a cemetery for those who perished in a fierce hailstorm, believed to be a manifestation of the Hindu goddess Nanda Devi. After much debate, a 5-year study by scientists revealed that the bones found in the lake date back about 1,200 years. Carbon dating showed that the people who died at the lake did not die at the same time and could have passed away up to 1,000 years apart. Their genetic makeup also shows a diversity of ethnicities. 23 skeletons have ancestors related to modern-day Indians, with deaths occurring during the period between the 7th and 10th centuries. Meanwhile, 14 skeletons are most closely related to people from the island of Crete in Greece in the Mediterranean. the remaining skeletons have Southeast Asian ancestry. This group of 15 individuals died between the 17th and 20th centuries, possibly in a single event. These were the remains of both men and women, all adults who were healthy and unaffected by disease at the time of death. Horrifying discovery. Inside this 2,000-year-old coffin shocks archaeological world. 2,000-year-old red remains. For decades, archaeologists have conducted several excavations in the town of Herculaneum, Italy, and have made significant discoveries. Among these, they found a set of red-colored remains around 2,000 years old. The study of these unusual red remains has revealed some surprising secrets. Specifically, researchers have stated that the remains belong to a man who died around the age of 40-45. This man was one of thousands who perished in the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. The volcanic tragedy buried a vast area of Roman lands, including the entire town of Pompeii near the volcano, which was engulfed in a massive cloud of volcanic ash. The people of Pompeii turned into living statues, frozen in various positions, some sleeping, some working, and some fleeing. Moreover, surrounding towns, including Herculaneum, were also severely damaged by the eruption. The red-colored remains found in Herculaneum were later identified by experts as belonging to a person who may have been trying to escape the eruption. According to experts, this man was close to escaping, as he was near the sea, or he might have been a soldier trying to rescue the townspeople. As for the reason behind the red color of the remains, experts explain that the color comes from the man's blood. The man suffered a painful death when a wooden roof collapsed on his head, crushing his skull. Afterward, the intense heat from the flowing lava when Mount Vesuvius erupted, along with the ash and debris, buried the man. Because the blood dried and stained the remains like a terrifying dye, the remains have retained their red appearance after being buried for nearly 2,000 years. The Weapon Museum of Qin Shi Huang. The tomb of Qin Shi Huang is considered the largest tomb in the world and one of the most unusual burial structures in human history. It lies deep underground on a hill in central China, where it has remained for over 2,000 years, surrounded by a moat filled with mercury. This tomb holds the secrets of the first emperor of China, who passed away in 210 BCE after unifying the 6 warring states into a single nation. The burial area K9801, located between the inner and outer walls, is about 200 meters southeast of the tomb. It is rectangular, with a length of 130 meters along the east-west axis and a width of 100 meters along the north-south axis, covering more than 13,000 square meters. It is the largest burial area discovered within the Qin Shi Huang Mausoleum complex to date. Here, archaeologists have unearthed a large number of stone helmets and armor made from copper mesh, stacked on top of each other. The armor set includes 87 pieces, and there are 43 helmets. Experts have analyzed the technique used to craft the armor, which combined the technology of weapon making at the time. First, slate was crafted into a base for the armor, then shaped into armor plates, polished and assembled with copper thread to create each suit of armor. Through experimentation, it was found that making a single armor suit with 600 pieces of stone would take a worker an average of 8 hours a day for between 344 and 444 days to complete. This means it would take at least 1 year to make just one suit of armor. The helmets and armor in the burial area are estimated to be made from over 5 million pieces of stone, indicating the vast labor force required for their production. It is estimated that around 700,000 war prisoners and slaves participated in building this complex, waterproof structure, only to be killed afterward to keep the tomb's secrets hidden. Historical records state that in this vast underground complex, there were likely thousands of stone armor and helmets. Currently, 2 pits have been excavated, containing horse reins, chariot parts, bronze axes, arrows, and other military items. Therefore, experts suggest that this burial area of the Qin Shi Huang tomb should be referred to as the Underground Weapon Repository. The skeleton of the crowned beauty. A group of stone quarry workers accidentally discovered a red-colored stone while working in the Turkey foothills of Tongliao City, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China. This led experts to uncover an ancient tomb containing the skeleton of a woman wearing a crown. According to the specialists, the tomb, which dates back to the Liao dynasty, 905 to 1125, was found about 30 meters long and buried over 10 meters underground. From the outside, the tomb resembled a stone house. Inside the tomb, there was a coffin that measured 1.5 meters tall, 2.6 meters wide, and 20 centimeters deep. The woman's skeleton was found fairly intact inside the coffin, as it had not been disturbed by tomb robbers for over 1,000 years. After studying the remains, experts determined that the woman had died at the age of 32 to 35. Based on the condition of the body and the artifacts found, they speculated that the woman might have come from a royal family. The coffin was made from cedar wood, with a detailed phoenix carving visible on its surface. When the lid was opened, archaeologists found the deceased lying on her back, wearing a golden crown and resting on a faint metal pillow, with her body covered by a large amount of silk fabric. Due to the lack of any artifacts identifying the tomb's owner, the experts faced difficulties in determining her identity. However, some specialists speculated that the tomb might belong to the daughter of Empress Shulu Ping, wife of Emperor Taizong of the Liao dynasty, the first emperor of the Khitan people. To confirm this, experts conducted DNA testing, and the results surprised scholars. When compared with DNA from the tombs of Emperor Taizong of Liao, it was confirmed that the crowned woman was indeed Princess Yulu Duogu, the sister of the king. The Mountain of Skeletons in the Ancient House. Archaeologists have recently discovered 97 sets of remains inside a 5,000-year-old small house in an ancient village in northeast China. There are many indications that the bodies of both adults and children from prehistoric times were piled inside this house before it was set on fire. The archaeological site where the house was found, now known as Haman Mangha, was established before writing emerged in the area, during a time when people lived in small settlements and survived by farming combined with hunting. In addition to the skeletal remains, archaeologists found many pieces of ancient pottery, grinding tools, arrowheads, and spear tips. These artifacts provided valuable insights into the lifestyles of ancient people. The Haman Mangha site is the largest and best-preserved prehistoric settlement in northeast China. During an excavation from April to November 2011, archaeologists uncovered the foundations of 29 houses. Most of these were simple single-room houses with one entrance and a fireplace. The house that contained the remains, named F40, measured only 20 square meters. Archaeologists reported that when they entered the house, they found many skeletons lying in disarray inside. The remains found in the northwest corner of the house were relatively complete, while those in the eastern corner mostly consisted of skulls, with few limb bones left. In the southern corner, the leg and arm bones were stacked in 2-3 layers, creating a chaotic pile. At some point, the entire house was set on fire. The fire caused the roof, including many wooden beams, to collapse, damaging some skulls and limb bones, which were charred and deformed. However, the remaining skeletons were not burned and have survived for 5,000 years, allowing modern scientists to study them. So, what happened to these remains? A team of anthropologists from Jilin University in China is currently studying the bones, trying to determine what happened to these people. Recently, the team published a report with their findings in the Jilin University Weekly. According to their research, it appears that the people in the house died due to a prehistoric disaster, possibly a plague, which led to their bodies being stacked on top of each other. It also seems that the number of deaths was so large and the victims perished so quickly that it overwhelmed the surviving community's ability to bury the bodies. Archaeologists found that half of the remains belonged to individuals aged 19 to 35, with no remains of older individuals. Dinosaur bone fossils. In Russia, 1982. In 1982, while traveling along the Volga River, a Soviet scientist discovered several fossilized bones embedded in stone. These were vertebrae from a massive dinosaur that had become fossilized in rock. Another scientist determined that the vertebrae belonged to a sauropod, a type of dinosaur known for its gigantic neck. Paleontologists identified the relationship of this giant dinosaur to the South American titanosaurids, which were responsible for producing the largest dinosaur species in Earth's history, Argentinosaurus. Scientists were able to determine that this particular dinosaur was one of the earliest sauropod species on the planet, appearing about 130 236 million years ago. Furthermore, based on the size of two vertebrae from other dinosaurs of the same genus, they estimated that the dinosaur could have been 17 meters long and weighed 17 tons. However, it was not the largest representative of its family, but rather one of the biggest dinosaurs found in Russia. These dinosaurs consumed stones, known as stomach stones, to aid in digestion. Typically, such dinosaurs traveled in herds, but the question remains, why did this particular dinosaur become separated from its herd? This mystery continues to baffle archaeologists, who are still trying to find answers. Headless human remains. Archaeologists uncovered a set of human remains in a sacrificial pit at the Chaizhuang archaeological site in Ziyuan, Henan Province, China. This pit dates back to the Shang dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BCE. What was particularly unusual about this discovery was that the remains had been decapitated and buried in a kneeling position facing north, with the arms crossed in front. The remains were relatively well preserved and positioned in a shape resembling the Chinese character Kan from the oracle bone script. Oracle bone script is an ancient form of Chinese writing inscribed on turtle shells and animal bones. It is the earliest known form of Chinese characters and one of the oldest complete scripts in the country. Based on the research on oracle bone script excavated from the site of Yin ruins, scholars found that sacrificial practices were very common during the Shang dynasty. Pictographs such as Shi, Tan, and Kan were used to describe different sacrificial rituals. Kan specifically refers to the act of offering human or animal sacrifices by burying them in pits. While most sacrificial remains discovered so far were found in a lying position, experts suggest that, based on the oracle bone inscriptions, the kneeling Kan sacrifice might have been more common during that period. This is an intriguing detail that might surprise many, as it is not widely known. The massive treasure in the tomb of the Aztec king. Located in the ancient capital of the Aztec civilization, Tenochtitlan, the Templo Mayor ruins were the main temple of the Aztecs and have become legendary as the Empire of Warriors. According to ancient origins, scientists recently discovered an ancient treasure that included the most bizarre offerings: 180 coral branches, 165 red starfish, jaguars, wolves, and eagles, all dressed as Aztec warriors, adorned with precious jewelry. The research team, led by the National Institute of Anthropology and History of Mexico, believes that Aztec priests sealed and buried these items, including the warrior beasts, around 520 years ago as part of a strange sacrificial ceremony for someone of great importance. However, the warrior beasts still attract the most attention, especially a jaguar gripping an eagle and a fierce wolf, both dressed in warrior attire with an atlatl spear beside them, bronze bells tied around their ankles, carved wooden discs on their belts, and various other precious ornaments. According to Reuters, Spanish records note that burial rituals for three Aztec kings, who reigned from 1469 to 1502, involved the cremated remains of all three kings being buried with luxurious items, alongside the hearts of enslaved individuals who had been sacrificed in or near the Templo Mayor's circular platform. According to Joyce Marcus, an expert in ancient Mexican culture from the University of Michigan, these recent offerings may be an important discovery related to the tomb of Aztec king Ahuitzotl. This discovery could shed light on the worldview of the Aztecs and their complex ritual systems, which served to sanctify their conquests. The blackened bones in the ancient Ming tomb. In March 2017, workers at a construction site for a sewer in Taikang County, Henan Province, China, accidentally uncovered an ancient tomb while operating an excavator. After being notified, archaeologists arrived at the site to investigate and confirmed that it was a tomb from the Ming dynasty. The tomb had been severely damaged due to the excavator's impact, and even two coffins had been displaced. When the coffins were opened, the experts were shocked to find the bodies perfectly preserved, as if they had just died recently. However, shortly after, the two corpses suddenly turned black. This phenomenon baffled the experts and remains a mystery. Archaeologists then excavated artifacts from the site in an effort to identify the tomb's occupant. After studying the artifacts, they determined that the tomb belonged to a local man named Guo Pa. During his life, Guo Pa had served as the Right Grand Inspector in the Ming Dynasty court. According to the History of Culture in Taikang County, Guo Pa was recorded as a scholar during the reign of Emperor Ming. He was a fair and honest official, so much so that he earned the nickname Bao Zheng of the Ming dynasty, a reference to a famous upright official in Chinese history. However, the reason why the two corpses turned an unusual black color remains unexplained, and it has become a mystery in Chinese archaeology to this day. 300-year-old remains in China. Recently, Chinese archaeologists discovered 3 corpses in the Xiangcheng area of Henan Province, central China. Among the 3, one corpse was perfectly preserved. It is believed to belong to a man, likely from the Ching dynasty, 1644 to 1912, based on his clothing, and is estimated to be around 300 years old. A unique feature of this mummy is that when the coffin was opened, the face of the body appeared almost normal, but after a few hours, the skin began to darken and a foul odor began to emanate. Gradually, the entire body's skin turned black. Dr. Lucas Nickel, an archaeologist, commented, "The embalmers tried to protect the body by placing it in a large and secure coffin. Furthermore, the coffin was lacquered and the mummy was covered with a layer of charcoal, which may have helped prevent bacterial invasion." Previously, in 2011, scientists studied a nearly perfectly preserved mummy found in Jiangsu Province, China. Despite being buried 2 meters deep, this mummy was exceptionally well preserved, from head to toe, with no signs of decay. According to Chinese researchers, this mummy is believed to be a woman, about 1.5 meters tall, buried during the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644. Preliminary estimates suggest this mummy is nearly 700 years old and belonged to the nobility. Chinese archaeologists are conducting further research on this mysterious mummy to gain a better understanding of burial and embalming practices during the Qing dynasty. Homosexuality 5,000 years ago. Many people, including some scientists, still believe that homosexuality is a product of modern civilization, with its growing trend becoming more widespread. But was this the case during the early stages of human society's development? It wasn't until 2011 that archaeologists from the Czech Republic were able to answer yes. Specifically, in 1964, scientists discovered historical evidence showing that the first homosexual couple appeared as early as 2400 BC. These were 2 royal manicurists from Egypt named Neanderthal and Khnum-Hotep. When they died, they were buried together as a couple. Upon discovering this tomb, scientists initially wondered if they were twin brothers buried together. They temporarily called this the twin tomb. However, as they continued their research, they realized the images in the tomb, depicting 2 men, more closely resembled those of a married couple than of brothers. Interestingly, Neanderthal had a wife. Some images of his wife were depicted on the tomb but were later erased for an unknown reason, and in some of the images, Khnum-Hotep was shown in the position of the wife. The names of Neanderthal and Khnum-Hotep were also written next to each other with the meaning, "together in life and in death." Scientists believe that this is truly surprising and may be a royal secret that was hidden. In that era, only pharaohs and their royal relatives were allowed to have tombs built, so it's likely that Neanderthal and possibly Khnum-Hotep were related to the royal family. Additionally, the terms gay or homosexual did not appear with their current meanings related to same-sex relationships until 1920. Before then, such relationships were hardly mentioned in history. If this is true, then concluding that homosexuality is a product of modern civilization is entirely incorrect, because it existed in ancient times. Homosexuality, along with bisexuality and heterosexuality, is one of the 3 main sexual orientations on the sexual orientation spectrum, with asexuality sometimes considered a 4th. According to science, sexual orientation cannot be chosen, as it is influenced by a complex interaction of innate factors and environmental influences. Homosexuality is an example of the diversity of sexual orientations in humans, and it does not cause negative psychological effects. To this day, many studies continue to explore the origins and history of homosexuality. It's a difficult question to answer. What do you think the answer might be? The 170-year-old intact corpse has just been discovered, causing a sensation among archaeologists. The 170-year-old intact corpse. In a construction site in Queens, New York, a strange event occurred that left not only the workers but also the police stunned. While working, the laborers discovered an intricately carved iron coffin buried deep in the ground. Upon opening the coffin, they found the body of a young woman in a state of decomposition, seemingly having passed away just a few days earlier. This sign led the police to suspect that the woman might have been the victim of a recent murder or missing persons case. However, the results from forensic experts revealed a shocking truth. The woman's body showed no signs of recent death, but had actually been deceased for 170 years, dating back to the 19th century. This became even more mysterious when researchers confirmed that the body had not been embalmed, yet remained remarkably intact, as if time had forgotten it. The miraculous preservation of the body prompted intervention from archaeologists, as they stated that no similar case had ever been recorded before. The woman's skin remained so well preserved that traces of smallpox were visible on her forehead and chest, marks that could only be associated with diseases from ancient times. After examination and being transferred to an archaeological institution, a formal ritual was conducted for the young woman. While no one was alive to identify her, her family had previously respected special burial rites, placing her in an airtight coffin, believing that it would protect her from the ravages of time. Indeed, even after nearly 2 centuries, her body remained a mysterious symbol, a story without a complete answer about the miraculous preservation of corpses from the past. This strange story not only raised scientific questions, but also made us ponder the unsolved mysteries of history, where stories thought to be forever forgotten have come back to life in a mysterious way. 9,000-year-old skull, encased in asphalt. When excavating the Nahal Himar archaeological site in the Judean desert of southern Israel, scientists were perplexed to discover 3 intact skulls preserved by being encased in asphalt. After analysis, they found that these skulls dated back to 7000 BC. The arid conditions of the Judean desert had helped the organic materials preserve better than in most other parts of the world. As a result, the skulls were in excellent condition, particularly the 3 that were encased in asphalt, which also served as a protective shield against the ravages of time. According to researchers, the practice of encasing skulls in asphalt was a way to honor the deceased, linked to ancestor worship. These skulls likely belonged to revered ancestors or individuals particularly loved by the family. The skulls may have also symbolized a family's claim over a specific territory. This was during the early Neolithic period, when population growth led to intense land competition. Additionally, within the Nahal Himar cave, archaeologists discovered stone masks dating back about 9,000 years, believed to be the oldest in the world. These masks had holes to thread strings through, allowing them to be tied to posts or affixed to other surfaces. Some of the masks showed similar features such as pronounced cheekbones, sunken temples, and eye sockets, resembling the skulls found in the cave. This suggests that these stone masks were modeled after the faces of the deceased and were used in funeral rituals. During the transition from hunting and gathering to farming and herding, people who had no written language asserted land ownership through ancestor inheritance rituals, performing ceremonies to honor the deceased and reenacting the images of their ancestors. As a result, they created these masks to represent their ancestors. The 4,800-year-old skeleton of a mother holding her child. While excavating a prehistoric mass burial site of indigenous people in Taiwan, archaeologists discovered the remains of a young mother and her child. According to Reuters, they were among 48 skeletons neatly arranged, found in 2014. These archaeological findings are the earliest evidence of human activity discovered in central Taiwan. However, what captured the attention of the archaeologists was the skeletons of the mother and child. Dr. Chu Wei Li, the head and director of the Department of Anthropology at the National Museum of Natural Science in Taiwan, stated that during the excavation, all the archaeologists and staff were shocked by this discovery. The mother was found looking down at her child, held in her left arm. The woman was a young adult, approximately 20 to 25 years old, and stood at 1.6 meters tall. She was holding a baby in her left arm, bent over, gazing at the child. Initially, archaeologists believed the child may have died due to premature birth. However, after analyzing the bones and noting the child's height of 50 centimeters, it was concluded that the baby was about 6 months old, and both the mother and child might have died together. However, the exact cause of their deaths and what happened afterward remains a mystery. Artifacts in the Palace of Queen Cleopatra. While diving off the coast near Alexandria, Egypt, divers discovered many precious artifacts from the ruins of a temple complex and palace belonging to Queen Cleopatra, one of the most famous figures of the ancient world. Using advanced technology, the lead diver, French underwater archaeologist Franck Godillot, studied the royal quarter of ancient Alexandria, located beneath the harbor's sediment layers, and confirmed the accuracy of descriptions made by ancient Greek geographers and historians about a city that existed more than 2,000 years ago. They uncovered a variety of artifacts, from coins and daily items to large granite statues depicting Egyptian kings and submerged temples once dedicated to the gods. The royal quarter of Alexandria, including harbors, a promontory, islands with several shrines, palaces, and military complexes, sank to the seabed following devastating earthquakes around the 4th and 8th centuries. Godillot's research team discovered the sunken city in 1996. Many of its treasures remain intact, preserved by the sediment that shielded them from the salty seawater. On May 25th, divers explored the temple and palace ruins where Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, had captivated Roman general Mark Antony before the couple committed suicide after Egypt was conquered by Rome. The divers discovered the site where Cleopatra and Antony had once lived. They also found a large stone head statue believed to be of Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, with her former lover Julius Caesar, along with 2 Sphinx statues, one of which may represent Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, as well as many other artifacts. These artifacts, discovered along the Egyptian coast, will be displayed at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia in an exhibition titled Cleopatra: The Search for the Last Queen of Egypt. Ancient ceremonial chariot. At a villa in the outskirts of Civita Juliana, located 700 meters north of the ancient city walls of Pompeii, archaeologists discovered an ancient Roman ceremonial chariot, remarkably well preserved. This large 4-wheeled chariot is adorned with beautifully crafted bronze and tin decorations, along with mineralized wooden pieces and impressions of organic materials, ranging from ropes to floral and leaf decorations, all in nearly perfect condition. Earlier, in 2018, archaeologists had also found 3 horse skeletons at the same site, one of which had a horseshoe. This discovery is particularly significant, not only because it adds to the history of this villa and the final moments of the lives of those who lived there, but also because it deepens our understanding of the ancient world. Most importantly, it represents a unique and unprecedented find in Italy, preserved in such an exceptional condition. From the beginning, the excavation of the area where the chariot was found revealed its extraordinary nature. The site in question was actually a 2-story portico opening into an uncovered courtyard, with a wooden ceiling made from carbonized oak beams, which was remarkably well preserved. A meticulous excavation was carried out due to the fragile nature of the materials, requiring the expertise of specialists in wood and metal to preserve the chariot's axle and base, as well as the impressions left by the ropes. With the excavation completed, the chariot's parts were transferred to the laboratory, where conservators removed the petrified lava and began restoring the chariot. Massimo Ossana, acting director of the archaeological site, stated, "This is a very unique discovery that expands our understanding of the ancient world." He also confirmed that this was a ceremonial chariot, sometimes referred to as a palentum in ancient sources, used not for daily transport or agricultural purposes, but for processions, parades, and religious ceremonies. The intact shipwreck after 2,000 years. During an underwater robot survey of Bulgaria's coastline, the team discovered a shipwreck fleet. Most of the ships, originating from Roman, Greek, and Ottoman civilizations, were perfectly preserved. The Black Sea, with its near-total lack of light, oxygen, and minimal marine life, means that organisms that decompose wood are absent, creating ideal conditions for preserving shipwrecks in nearly their original state. Many of the ships were still standing, their rudders intact, and numerous pieces of equipment and cargo remained on deck. On a 2,000-year-old Roman ship, researchers even found the ropes still intact, with some ships previously only seen in ancient murals. All the artifacts discovered by the team have been meticulously recreated using the world's most detailed 3D printing technology. According to Professor John Adams of the University of Southampton, the Black Sea Map project is now completing the 3rd season of its research, having surveyed over 1,300 kilometers, collected 100 sediment core samples, and discovered 20 new shipwrecks, in addition to the 40 already found. From the data and materials collected, the research team can reconstruct ancient environmental changes and better understand the impact of these changes on the populations in the region at the time. Giant handprints, carved deep into stone. We can learn something about the lives of our distant ancestors through the traces they left behind on stone slabs and cave walls, which can still be seen today. The petroglyphs at White Mountain are a powerful testament to the lives of Native American tribes who lived there between 200 and 1,000 years ago. In addition to hundreds of carved images in the area, there are also massive handprints etched into the stone. The location of these petroglyphs is in the Red Desert of Wyoming, which was once home to Native American tribes. The rock carvings and hieroglyphs are windows into the past, providing us with data and insight into the lives of those who created them. The carvings at this site, including handprints, are some of the most tangible links we have with the Great Basin Native Americans who lived there from 200 to 1,000 years ago, including the Shoshone, Arapaho, and Ute tribes. These petroglyphs tell us much about the beliefs and culture of the people who lived there hundreds of years ago and beyond. Some of the carvings depict bison hunts and moose hunts. The stone also shows images of bison and wild horses. In addition to animals, there are many interesting geometric shapes and small footprints decorating the surface of the stone. Although little is known about the meanings of these shapes or symbols in the past, Native Americans still regard them as sacred symbols. They feel a connection to nature and a sense of positivity when visiting these places. According to a Native American elder, these symbols have great significance and a communal meaning for them. They feel that the stones are alive and connected to them. However, the most mysterious feature of the site is the deeply embedded handprints in the solid sandstone, as if someone mysteriously softened the stone and pressed their hands into it. According to historians, the handprints were created by the Eastern Shoshone tribes around 1000 to 1800 AD. Since then, thousands of people have continued to make similar movements with their hands on the sandstone, which has created the deep handprint effect. 3,000-year-old tomb in the Peruvian highlands. Archaeologists have recently uncovered an ancient tomb in northern Peru, which may have been the burial site of a religious leader around 3,000 years ago. The remains buried in the tomb have been named the Priest of Pacoampati. The priest was buried beneath 6 layers of ash mixed with dark earth, along with several decorated ceramic bowls and floral seals on the body, which were ritualistic items used for people of high social status. The scientists also discovered 2 unique seals along the upper edge of the tomb. One seal resembles a human face facing east, while the other depicts a jaguar and faces west. Archaeologist Yuji Seki, the project leader, explained that the tomb is unusually large, measuring nearly 2 meters in diameter and 1 meter deep. Additionally, the body was buried in a very unique position, lying face down with its feet crossed. Among the remains, archaeologists also found a tupu, a large pin used by the native people of the Andes to fasten their cloaks. However, tupus were typically used by women. According to Seki, even though the individual buried in the tomb was male, the items associated with him are particularly special, and this person may have been a leader of his time. Analysis and dating of the tomb's stone layers suggest that this priest may have been buried around 1200 BC. Four Roman swords, dating back 1,900 years. Archaeologists have discovered 4 Roman swords, dating back 1,900 years, in a cave overlooking the Dead Sea in Israel. The weapons cache was found after scientists returned to the cave to study a stalactite bearing ancient Hebrew inscriptions, where they also discovered several related artifacts. The 4 swords were found in a nearly inaccessible deep crevice on the upper level of the cave. They were exceptionally well preserved, discovered along with their hilts and sheaths made of leather, wood, or metal. 3 of the swords are Roman spatha, with blades measuring 60 to 65 centimeters long, while the 4th has a round hilt, is shorter, and measures 45 centimeters. According to researchers, these weapons may have been war trophies from the Roman army during the Roman occupation of the Judean region. After the discovery of the swords, archaeologists conducted extensive excavations in the cave, uncovering more artifacts from the Paleolithic period, around 6,000 years ago, as well as from the Roman era, around 2,000 years ago. Additionally, at the cave entrance, researchers found a bar copper coin dating from 132 to 135 AD, which corresponds to the time when the swords were likely deposited. This date aligns with the period of the Bar Kokhba revolt, a Jewish uprising against Roman rule in Judea, led by the rebel leader Simon Bar Kokhba. The ancient Maya city of Lagunita. The civilization of the Maya remains one of the most mysterious and intriguing puzzles, sparking scientific exploration. One of the legacies they left for future generations is their architectural works, sites, and strange symbols. The ancient city of Lagunita is one of the surviving remnants of the Maya. Located in the state of Campeche on the Yucatan Peninsula, the city of Lagunita lies hidden in the jungle, forgotten by time. The Maya city existed between 1000 and 600 BC. Among the ruins, archaeologists discovered a full array of structures, including pyramids, fortifications, and houses, proving that the city was once a thriving metropolis. According to archaeologists, the two cities recently uncovered reached their peak between 600 and 1000 AD. The research team found buildings resembling palaces, pyramids, and marketplaces. One of the pyramids is 20 meters tall. A massive stone stela is buried in the earth at Tamchin. Most of the structures are now distorted due to the cities being abandoned 1,000 years ago. These ruins of the ancient Maya city were found in the dense jungle at the center of the Yucatan Peninsula, in the southeastern part of Campeche, Mexico, a region with thick vegetation that is nearly inaccessible to humans. Apollo spacecraft rocket engines. The rocket engines of the Apollo spacecraft, which had been lying at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean for 40 years, were recovered by an exploration team led by Jeff Bezos, the founder of the online retail giant Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos announced on his website, "We discovered a lot. We saw an underwater wonderland, an extraordinary sculpture with a twisted F-1 engine garden, echoing a violent end that served as a testament to the Apollo program." According to Bezos, the engines are located at a depth of 4,170 meters off the coast of Cape Canaveral in Florida. About a year ago, Bezos announced that his private exploration team had pinpointed these old devices at the deep ocean floor, which he believed were the rocket engines of the Apollo 11 spacecraft, launched in 1969 for the first manned mission to the moon. Charles Bolden, the administrator of NASA, announced on March 20th, "Nearly a year ago, Jeff Bezos shared with us his plan to recover the F-1 rocket engines. We share in his excitement and that of his team as they announced the recovery of two of the first-stage engines of the Saturn V rocket, located deep at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean." Cannibal shipwreck in the Arctic. In the mid-19th century, the first human skeletons were discovered in the Arctic seas off the coast of Canada, believed to belong to the crew of the ill-fated HMS Erebus. The first two skeletons were found on the coast of King William Island in 1859, belonging to two men who had been dead for a long time. 10 years later, another skeleton was found on the same beach. By 1879, 6 more white skeletons were discovered, with additional remains found in 1932, 1987, and 1992, all unburied. Some of the remains showed tooth marks from rodents, and more disturbingly, some skeletons exhibited signs of flesh being stripped, mainly on the wrists. A research team from Canada confirmed that these were the crew members of HMS Erebus, led by Captain John Franklin, who became trapped in ice near King William Island in 1846, about 200 nautical miles northwest of Toronto, Canada, leading to the deaths of 129 men. John Geiger, a member of the research team and president of the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, stated, "The ship is in an incredible condition. It's like we're on the moon." Additionally, another ship that accompanied the Erebus, HMS Terror, has yet to be found. Both ships disappeared during the Northwest Passage expedition, a sea route connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic. According to a record found on a rock outcrop, after 2 years stuck in the Arctic, the crew dwindled from 129 to just 105 men, including Captain Franklin, who died. The remaining survivors abandoned the ship due to the lack of food, wandering on the ice, which accelerated their deaths. According to 19th century records from the indigenous Inuit people, the crew members died from disease and lead poisoning caused by canned food. There is also an unconfirmed theory that the crew resorted to cannibalism to survive while awaiting rescue. Evidence of this includes cut marks on bones, especially on the wrists, found on several skeletons. The body of Lord Sri Krishna has just been discovered under the sea, shocking archaeologists. According to ancient texts, it is believed that Lord Krishna was born in Mathura and spent his childhood in Gokul. However, when he was called back to Mathura due to the war invitation from Kamsa, after defeating Kamsa, he built the city of Dwarka for the descendants of the Yadu clan. After 36 years since the end of the Mahabharata war, the city of Dwarka completely submerged into the sea, and with it, many descendants of the Yadu clan, including Lord Krishna, also gave up their lives. Several years ago, in a study, scientists discovered a beautiful city submerged underwater near Gujarat, and it remains underwater to this day. In this city, many ancient artifacts have been found, proving that this is indeed the city of Dwarka that Lord Krishna built, now submerged. But have you ever wondered why and how Lord Krishna's city of Dwarka sank into the sea? Let me help answer this question. When the Mahabharata war ended, Lord Krishna handed over the throne of Hastinapur to the Pandava brothers and began to rule the city of Dwarka. After Lord Krishna left this world, the city of Dwarka also sank into the sea. According to mythological stories, there are two main reasons explaining why the city of Dwarka sank. The first reason is that Gandhari, the mother of the Kaurava clan, cursed Lord Krishna, and the second reason is that several rishis cursed Krishna's son, Samba. According to the first story, after the Mahabharata war ended and the Pandavas returned to Hastinapur, sage Sanjay, a disciple of Vyasa, informed Gandhari that the Pandavas had returned with Lord Krishna. Upon hearing this, Gandhari was enraged because she believed that the Mahabharata war was not a natural war but one created by Lord Krishna. She thought Krishna was responsible for the war, and as a result, all her sons and the Kaurava clan were killed and her entire family was destroyed. Gandhari blamed Krishna for her sons' deaths and believed that if he wanted, he could have stopped the war, but instead, he encouraged it. Thousands of lives were lost in the war and immense destruction occurred. When Lord Krishna and the Pandavas arrived in Hastinapur, he declared Yudhishthir the new king of Hastinapur and handed over the leadership to him. Gandhari, who was present in the palace, criticized Krishna in front of everyone, blaming him for the annihilation of her family. She cursed him, saying, "Just as my sons died in the Mahabharata war and my family was destroyed, one day your clan will also perish, and the city of Dwarka that you built will also be destroyed. You will die at the hands of hunters in the forest." Upon hearing this curse, Krishna simply smiled and said, "Mother, I accept your curse." Gandhari then felt remorseful and wanted to apologize, but Krishna comforted her, saying, "Your curse to me is like a gift." After hearing this, the Pandava brothers, who were standing nearby, were puzzled by Gandhari's curse. Sometime later, Krishna left Hastinapur and returned to Dwarka. Lord Krishna actually wanted Gandhari of the Kaurava clan to curse him because, with the end of the Mahabharata war and the restoration of righteousness on earth, Krishna had fulfilled his life's purpose and wished to quickly return to his realm. Throughout the Mahabharata, when all the evil forces were destroyed, only those who truly believed in Krishna and followed the path of righteousness remained. However, it is said that during the Mahabharata war, the people of Dwarka did not participate, and many of Dwarka's residents still maintained the ancient traditions and continued to live righteous lives. Krishna wanted to restore righteousness in Dwarka and ensure that everyone there followed the path of virtue. Thus, he relied on Gandhari's curse to complete the final purpose of his life. After Dwarka sank into the sea, all the immoral people there were also destroyed. Now, let's talk about the second reason why Lord Krishna's city of Dwarka sank into the sea. Once, when the rishis Vishwamitra, Kashyapa, Durvasa, and other rishis visited Dwarka, Lord Krishna witnessed his son Samba playing with his friends. When Samba and his friends saw the rishis passing by, they devised a plan to prank them. They pretended to ask the rishis what a pregnant woman would give birth to from her belly. When the rishis heard this, they realized that Samba and his friends were mocking them, and they became very angry. The rishis cursed Samba, saying, "From your belly, a ball of fire will be born, and it will destroy your entire lineage." Upon hearing this curse, Samba and his friends immediately apologized, but it was in vain. When Krishna learned of this curse, he said, This is the curse of the rishis, and it cannot be changed. A few days later, what everyone feared happened. A huge ball of fire appeared and then vanished immediately. After some time, the curses from Gandhari and the rishis began to come true, and their influence gradually spread throughout the city of Dwarka. In Dwarka, accidents and unfortunate events started happening continuously. As a result, crops and grains were destroyed, and the lives of the people in Dwarka became extremely difficult. At this point, the division within Dwarka reached its peak, and the people there were constantly at odds with each other. Along with this, the residents of Dwarka seem to have become materialistic and distanced from righteousness. Seeing all this, Krishna sent a message to Arjuna, asking him to go to Dwarka and bring the people there to safety. When Arjuna received Krishna's message, he went to Dwarka. Upon arrival, Arjuna saw that all the people of Dwarka were killing each other in conflicts. Krishna saw Arjuna and said, "Dwarka will soon sink into the sea. Arjuna, take all the people of Dwarka to Hastinapur." Arjuna agreed to take all the residents of Dwarka to Hastinapur and began preparations for the journey. However, at that moment, Krishna's son, Pradyumna, passed away. After Pradyumna's death, Krishna's brother, Balarama, also left this world. One day, while Krishna was sitting under a tree in the forest, reflecting on Gandhari's curse, a hunter came by. The hunter mistook Krishna's foot for a deer's head and shot an arrow at it. The arrow struck Krishna's toe, wounding him. When the hunter approached, he realized it was Krishna and saw blood flowing from his toe. The hunter apologized, and Krishna forgave him before leaving this world. When the news of Krishna's death reached his father Vasudeva, he too passed away, along with his 3 wives. Later, Arjuna performed the funeral rites for all those who had died. Arjuna also performed funeral rites for the residents of Dwarka who had died in the conflicts. Later, Arjuna remembered the promise he had made to Krishna and his father, that he would bring all the residents of Dwarka to Hastinapur. When Arjuna and the remaining people arrived in Hastinapur, Dwarka, the city of Krishna, sank into the sea. It is said that in 1963, the Archaeological Department first discovered the ruins of the city of Dwarka underwater near Gujarat, and they also found pottery dating back about 3,000 years. All these findings prove that it is very likely that Lord Krishna's body is also lying there. However, they have not revealed this yet. What do you think about this? As for me, I believe it is the truth. But that's not all. Beyond the ruins of Dwarka and the story of Krishna, there are many other mysterious and fascinating things that archaeologists have discovered deep under the sea. Would you like to know what they are? If so, let's explore together right now. The 72 sunken villages with evidence of life. The underwater world has always been one of the most mysterious and fascinating areas that humans continuously seek to explore. Recently, a groundbreaking discovery left the scientific community in awe. Scientists uncovered 72 ancient villages at the bottom of the sea, and the traces of life found there were preserved so well it seems almost unbelievable. This discovery not only challenges our current understanding of the ocean, but also raises new questions. Could the ocean floor have been home to humans in ancient times? Why did these mysterious civilizations live beneath the sea, and what was their culture and lifestyle like? These are the questions that open up a fascinating research journey, one that could change how we view human history. Of course, this discovery was not by chance. Prior to this, a diver accidentally stumbled upon stone structures at the bottom of the sea, which led to an extensive investigation. Scientists determined that these were ancient villages, dating back much further than we previously imagined. Artifacts such as pottery, fishing hooks, nets, and other daily tools were found, proving that ancient residents lived and operated under the sea. It's possible they chose this location due to the abundant resources of the ocean and the stable environment that protected them from external threats. Notably, scientists didn't just find tools and living remnants, but also discovered tombs, revealing a culture that had organization and longevity. These findings demonstrate the remarkable adaptability and creativity of ancient humans, who were able to build communities beneath the sea. Even the architectural structures and art found here suggest advanced building techniques and designs far beyond what we previously believed possible for ancient peoples. However, the big question remains unanswered. Were the inhabitants of these villages part of an ancient civilization? Do these remains relate to our ancestors, or are they the product of an independent, unknown development? These questions launch an exploration not only into history, but also into humanity's ability to adapt to its environment. And perhaps these underwater discoveries are just the tip of the iceberg, opening the door to a mysterious underground world that we still have yet to fully understand. The 40 ghost ships found at the bottom of the Black Sea. An international expedition discovered the remains of ancient ships at the bottom of the Black Sea. More than 40 shipwrecks were found at a depth of 490 feet while mapping submerged lands from ancient times. The Black Sea Archaeology Project involves members from multiple countries and is led by the Ocean Archaeology Center at the University of Southampton. Professor John Adams, the project leader, stated that they were surprised to find that these sunken ships still existed, albeit not intact. The research team in the Black Sea Archaeology Project used some of the world's most advanced underwater exploration technologies. They surveyed the seabed with two remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, capable of diving to depths of 5,900 feet and maintaining speeds over 7 mph. After analyzing the structure and shape of the ships, scientists noticed connections to the Turkish Empire and Eastern Rome. They plan to conduct further studies to determine the time period of the shipwrecks and their age. This discovery will also shed light on the relationships between the two communities around the Black Sea, Professor Adams added. The shipwrecks are an exciting find from our large-scale geophysical survey. They have been perfectly preserved thanks to the low oxygen conditions at a depth of 490 feet in the Black Sea. With the latest 3D imaging technology for underwater objects, we can take pictures without disturbing the seabed, he said. The team is currently researching their remains and plans to recreate the landscapes of these ships based on historical records and data. According to Professor Adams, these ships may have been cargo vessels used for commercial purposes rather than warships. 10,000-year-old giant stone block. Recently, archaeologists announced the discovery of a massive man-made structure at the bottom of the sea, which could have been built by an ancient civilization and holds many mysteries similar to the famous Stonehenge. According to a report published in Science Direct, this structure is 39 feet long and lies 131 feet beneath the Strait of Sicily, in the Mediterranean Sea. Notably, it is split in two and features 3 distinct holes, 2 on the sides and 1 running straight through the center, creating a strange shape that surprised experts. This stone block was cut from a large rock on a mountain and weighs approximately 33,000 pounds, requiring highly sophisticated craftsmanship. As a result, researchers from Tel Aviv University, Israel, and the Institute of Oceanography and Geophysics in Italy believe the structure originates from an ancient civilization over 10,000 years old and sank to the ocean floor during a massive flood. This discovery not only opens a new window into understanding history, but also challenges long-held ideas about the technological capabilities of ancient humans. The process of cutting, transporting, and erecting this giant stone required high-level technical skills, showing that our ancestors were not lacking in intellect or creativity as once believed. Contrary to the image of a primitive Stone Age, this discovery proves that ancient civilizations may have possessed advanced technologies far beyond what we thought. Experts believe this find could not only clarify the mysteries of ancient civilizations, but also provide valuable information about technological developments of Mediterranean prehistoric residents. This could change our perspective on human progress and enrich our understanding of ancient history, opening up questions that modern science has yet to answer. The legendary Egyptian city, beneath the Atlantic Ocean. In 2001, a groundbreaking discovery occurred at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean when an underwater archaeological team led by French archaeologist Franck Godillot accidentally uncovered strange remnants while searching for Napoleon's defeated warships from the Battle of the Nile. This discovery, made in the Abu Qir Bay area about 20 miles northeast of Alexandria, is considered one of the most important finds of the 21st century. The massive stones found deep beneath the sea were not just rubble, but the remains of a legendary ancient Egyptian city submerged underwater. This city was once a thriving seaport and a cultural crossroads between two ancient civilizations, Greek Herakleion and Egyptian Thonis. The archaeological team, in collaboration with the Oxford Centre for Maritime Archaeology, spent 12 years studying and recovering the remains. Here, archaeologists discovered numerous gigantic statues, including those of the goddess Isis, the god Hapi, and an unidentified Egyptian pharaoh. All these artworks were well preserved due to the thick layer of mud covering them. In addition to these statues, the team also uncovered hundreds of smaller statues of Egyptian gods, dozens of sarcophagi containing embalmed animal organs, and 64 ancient ships with a total of 700 anchors. One of the most remarkable finds was a giant stele, adorned with hieroglyphs, revealing previously unknown secrets about the religious and political life of ancient Egypt. These discoveries not only provide valuable insight into history, but also open up hopes of unraveling the mysteries hidden within this ancient city submerged beneath the sea. In the future, archaeologists expect to uncover even more crucial secrets, further illuminating one of humanity's great civilizations. Mysterious faces beneath the sea. Koh Tao, a small island in Thailand, is famous not only for its natural beauty and rich marine ecosystem, but also for a mystery beneath the ocean that has terrified many divers. Here, divers have discovered mysterious faces carved into coral reefs, creating an eerie and strange sight. These faces are not ancient relics of a lost civilization, but rather sculptures created by local artists. The original purpose of these carvings was to protect and restore the coral reefs after a fishing boat sank, causing significant damage to the area. The appearance of these faces, especially the image of a drowned man, conveys a profound message about the relationship between humans and nature. Although they may send a chill down one's spine and cause fear when first discovered underwater, these artworks carry a powerful message about life and death and the necessity of protecting the ocean from human impact. The artists carved these faces as a reminder that coral reefs, like living creatures, need care and protection. Each face underwater, though it may frighten divers, symbolizes sacrifice and the deep connection between humans and nature. In fact, they are an integral part of the region's ecological restoration efforts, and each year, nearly 400,000 tourists visit Koh Tao to witness these haunting faces. The juxtaposition of the ocean's beauty and the scars of destruction caused by humans highlights a profound message about the importance of marine conservation. These mysterious faces beneath the sea are a testament to a touching story where destruction and restoration intertwine, challenging us to rethink our relationship with nature. The 4,500-year-old city. Recently, archaeologists uncovered a magnificent ruin beneath the sea near the entrance of Cambay Bay, off the western coast of India, shaking the scientific community. This area, lying about 131 feet underwater and extending over 5.6 miles, includes a massive wall system that stretches 318 feet long and 95 feet wide, featuring architectural styles reminiscent of the Acropolis in Greece. This raises a significant question. Could this be an ancient city that sank beneath the ocean thousands of years ago? Studies of the area's irrigation structures, which have water supply systems extending from 1,240 feet to 2,025 feet long, 26 to 39 feet wide, and 10 to 26 feet high, make the story even more mysterious. In addition to the walls, a square-shaped bathing pool measuring 131 by 131 feet was also discovered, strikingly similar to modern-day swimming pools. Scientists believe this site belongs to the Indus Valley Civilization, which thrived around 2500 BCE. This period coincided with the ancient Indian Vedic and Upanishadic texts, and it had strong connections with major civilizations in the Middle East, such as Mesopotamia and the Mediterranean region. Particularly, the irrigation systems and Acropolis-like architecture suggest a culture with high technical proficiency and a deep understanding of water resource management. The Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappan Civilization, left distinct marks in the India-Pakistan border region, with famous cities like Lothal, which are now buried under the earth. This discovery has raised many questions for archaeologists about the development of the Indus culture, from daily life customs to the unsolved mysteries surrounding the Harappan script. The ancient city beneath Cambay Bay not only proves the remarkable development of the Indus civilization, but also opens a new chapter in the history of submerged civilizations, which, with modern technology, we are now beginning to rediscover. The most remarkable archaeological discoveries in recent years have caused a global sensation. The mummy of the woman, mistaken for an Egyptian pharaoh. The entire Nile Delta region is considered the cradle of ancient Egyptian civilization. This civilization lasted for thousands of years. Among its most famous and successful periods were those of the great pharaohs who ruled ancient Egypt, such as Pharaoh Djoser, Khufu, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Ramesses II. In fact, by the end of the 19th century, many tombs of these great pharaohs scattered across the land had been discovered and excavated, or plundered by tomb robbers. However, to this day, some intact tombs are still being found and excavated. One such example occurred in 2020, when archaeologists made a new discovery at Dashur, a royal necropolis located in the desert on the west bank of the Nile River, about 25 miles from Cairo. Specifically, the experts found many artifacts and cultural remains inside a sarcophagus believed to belong to a queen. This sarcophagus was found inside a pyramid. According to the customs of ancient Egypt, only kings or pharaohs were buried inside pyramids. Dr. Yasmin El-Shazli, an Egyptologist and the head of an archaeological team, worked alongside her colleagues to piece together wooden fragments found in the burial chamber. Eventually, they reconstructed the lid of the sarcophagus, which featured intricate carvings. Initially, the researchers were confident that the owner of the sarcophagus inside the pyramid was a queen. However, after restoration work combined with further research, this assumption was quickly proven to be incorrect. The expert explained that the lid of the sarcophagus depicted a person wearing a Hathor wig. Hathor was a popular accessory for women during the Middle Kingdom period. Hathor was an important goddess in ancient Egyptian religion, representing a variety of roles from life to death. She is often depicted with a solar disk and cow horns on her head and is associated with love, beauty, women, the sky, joy, music, miners, and fertility. The mummy of this mysterious woman was found next to a chest inscribed with hieroglyphs. Therefore, researchers hope that it will help them decode and identify the woman. However, the inscription containing her name was severely damaged. This is indeed unfortunate. Nevertheless, Egyptologists managed to decipher the remaining hieroglyphs and explain that what is extremely important about this chest is that we know it belonged to a princess because the chest is inscribed with Daughter of the King. Although they know the tomb's owner was a princess, her name remains a mystery. Especially intriguing is the reason why this princess was buried in a pyramid, which still remains unexplained. Professor Aidan Dodson at the University of Bristol noted, "This type of pyramid design is meant specifically for a king. It is not a burial place for a lower member of the royal family. A princess would usually only have a small tomb. This discrepancy makes the burial of a princess inside a pyramid a true mystery." To learn more about this princess, the research team shifted their focus to the period in which she lived, the Middle Kingdom, around 2030 BCE, 1650 BCE. However, to this day, the identity of this ancient Egyptian princess who was exceptionally buried inside a pyramid remains an unsolved mystery. Mysterious stone spheres. Until today, the stone spheres displayed by the people of Costa Rica in front of homes, parks, museums, and government buildings remain an unsolved mystery. They were first discovered by archaeologists in the Diqui Delta, Costa Rica. Since 1930, hundreds of these stone spheres have been found, ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 6.5 feet in diameter. Some even weigh up to 35,000 pounds. According to scientists, these spheres were created in their current form around 200 BC. They are solid stone sculptures made by human hands. 390 intricate stone spheres discovered in Costa Rica to this day remain unexplained. When no tools were found to explain their creation, similar mysterious stone spheres began appearing in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, how are these spheres formed? According to historians, some of the stone spheres were buried with ceramic shards dating back 200 to 1300 years ago in the Americas, even before Christopher Columbus arrived. What is particularly surprising is that these stone spheres are always found in sets of 3, arranged in triangular patterns, aligned north to south, as attested by those who discovered them. The spheres have been found on hilltops. 2 of them have been moved to Harvard University in Cambridge and the National Geographic Society in Washington, D.C. In 1963, in his research, Archaeology of the Diqui Plains, Costa Rica, at the Institute of the Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology at Harvard University, archaeologist Samuel K. Lothrop concluded that the stone spheres were astronomically aligned. However, the The formation of the stone spheres in Bosnia remains an unsolved mystery. The sacred well of the Maya. Religion played a crucial role in the spiritual life of the Maya people of Itza. According to ancient Maya texts, droughts were believed to be caused by the wrath of the water god. To appease the god, they had to sacrifice a 14-year-old virgin girl into a sacred well. The ancient belief was that the girl, when thrown into the well, would become the servant of the water god, living in luxury and enjoying a carefree life. However, even when the climate was stable and there were no droughts or disasters, the Maya priests would select a beautiful girl as a thank you offering to the water god. People from all over would gather at the temple beside the sacred well. This temple was 200 feet long and 100 feet high, and it featured an engraving of the water god, a winged serpent. The selected girl would wear an elaborate outfit and wait in the temple. Standing beside her would be several strong young men dressed in golden armor, ready to escort the bride of the rain god safely to the sacred well. The ceremony would begin at dawn, with the water god's bride placed in a flowered litter and blessed by the priests. The girl would then drink a magical potion to calm her nerves and maintain composure. The procession would carry her to the sacred well along a 300 feet path. Upon reaching the well, the girl would be thrown into the air by the guards and would fall freely into the well. At this moment, drums would sound, and the crowd would begin to dance and sing. Wealthy individuals would throw gold, silver, and jewels into the well, hoping for peace and prosperity. From the mid-16th century, when European colonizers conquered South America, Maya cities like Chichen Itza began to decline. From then on, no more living sacrifices were made at the sacred well. Through research, archaeologists have discovered more than 100 human skeletons at the bottom of the sacred well, along with treasures and ancient artifacts. The mysterious stones in Peru. In 1952, Peruvian archaeologist Dr. Daniel Russo discovered a massive sculpture on the Marcahuasi Plateau, a significant and scientifically meaningful event. The Marcahuasi Plateau is located 50 miles northeast of Lima, Peru, at an elevation of 13,123 feet, in a cold, arid region where almost nothing can survive among the enormous stones, making the area largely unexplored. Standing at the center of these stones, Russo identified faces of humans and animals carved into the rock. These included the faces of white people, black people, Jews, as well as animals such as lions, cows, elephants, and camels, all creatures that had never lived in the Americas. This sparked a major debate among scholars, as horses had been extinct in the Americas for around 9,000 years, only reappearing after the Spanish conquest of South America in the 16th century. Why then are these animals depicted here? The origins of these monuments remain full of mysteries yet to be uncovered. Furthermore, researchers discovered that the mysterious sculptors of these massive stone statues had a profound understanding of scientific perspective. Some images could only be seen at noon or at certain times of the day, disappearing when the sun's angle changed. The study of these stone formations depicting creatures never native to South America, or those that had long since gone extinct, or depicting races that had never set foot here, remains a major challenge for scientists. The prehistoric gold treasure. Recently, after 15 years of excavating 312 graves dating back to 4600 to 4200 BC at the ancient city of Varna, Bulgaria, archaeologists discovered a key moment in human history. It appears prehistoric people had mastered the secret of alchemy. As early as 6,500 years ago, humans seemed to have the idea of burying valuable items with the deceased. The cemetery shows a significant disparity between the tombs. Some graves were filled with many items, while others contained very few. On the other hand, it is likely that people of that era recognized that molten copper ores could be used to shape tools and jewelry. Most surprisingly, many graves contained numerous gold artifacts. Scientists could not explain how these gold objects appeared so early in this region. They believe that ancient people may have known the secret of alchemy, as told in legends. Over the next 600 years, the city of Varna was abandoned, and its inhabitants mysteriously vanished. According to archaeologist Maria Gimbutas, this could have been the result of an invasion by Indo-European warriors. However, no signs of battle or violence were found. No villages were burned, and no skeletons showed signs of stabbing or cutting. The reason for the collapse of this civilization remains a mystery to this day. Traces of a 9,000-year-old mysterious civilization. There is still so much we don't know about the ancient civilizations submerged in water that once existed in the distant past. Recently, underwater archaeologists were given another opportunity to search for an ancient society that no one could have imagined ever existed. It all began when US radar unexpectedly detected a strange structure at the bottom of Lake Huron. This was the first clue leading to the discovery of a 9,000-year-old ancient structure. Dr. O'Shea, an anthropology professor at the University of Michigan, identified the anomaly. With a fresh scientific perspective, he concluded that the structure perfectly resembled designs for caribou hunting trails. According to reports, underwater archaeologists seem to have discovered what was once a dry corridor connecting northeastern Michigan and southern Ontario. Scientists said that this area, named Drop 45 Drive, is the most complex hunting structure found beneath the Great Lakes to date. Researchers noted that the structures around Drop 45, along with the presence of chipped debris from repairing stone tools, provide clear evidence of the walls being designed for hunting purposes. Archaeological evidence from various sites shows that humans have lived in North America for at least 13,000 years, when Ice Age inhabitants known as the Clovis culture spread across the continent. At some point, they evolved into diverse hunter-gatherer groups, ancestors of today's Native Americans, but little is known about this transitional period. So far, the research team says their findings align with the hypothesis of the caribou hunting area, but the excavation search has only just begun, and it could eventually lead to the far shore of the lake. This discovery raises the question of how many other ancient civilizations still lie beneath the oceans and lakes around the world. The unexpectedly valuable shield. In 2018, construction workers in eastern Yorkshire, England, accidentally unearthed an ancient burial site from the Celtic civilization that existed over 2,300 years ago. As the excavation continued, archaeologists discovered several warrior remains, including the prominent grave of a powerful commanding general, buried with a two-horse-drawn chariot. The remains of the general, armored and armed with weapons and supplies, along with the two horses, were positioned as if ready for battle. This general was likely a respected figure in ancient Celtic society, possibly having died of old age, and the accompanying belongings indicated that he was a seasoned leader who had participated in numerous battles. One of the most remarkable artifacts discovered was a shield placed beside his remains. It measured 29 inches in length and was crafted by artisans from the Latin culture, reserved for the European ancient aristocracy and kings. On the central axis of the shield's front was a raised boss, with both sides decorated symmetrically with intricate designs and raised patterns. The shield, originally shining with a golden hue made of bronze, was surrounded by unique shell-patterned borders. This design had never been found in the Iron Age in Europe. Interestingly, it appears to have been used in battles, as a sword mark is still visible on the surface. With such unique features, the shield is regarded by archaeologists as the most important Celtic artwork found in Britain in the 3rd millennium and is often compared to the legendary Wandsworth shield, which is now displayed at the British Museum. The Gateway of the Gods. On the shores of Lake Titicaca, about 22 miles from the city of Puno, Peru, there is a site known as the Gateway of the Gods. Most visitors from around the world are still puzzled when they see a massive gateway carved into a solid rock. The appearance of this gateway makes many believe that it could lead to somewhere else. Some people who have touched the gateway claim to have felt an energy pass through their bodies. This gave them a strange experience. They said they could clearly sense stars, pillars of fire, and hear the sounds of an unusual melody. Upon examining the Gateway of the Gods, archaeologists discovered a small round hole in the center of the gateway, which is believed to have been meant to hold a golden disc. But could the golden disc actually activate this gateway? If this is true, where would it lead humanity? An ancient legend tells that near Lake Titicaca, there was a gateway for the gods to come to Earth and leave. This gateway had been sealed, but one day it will open, and the Creator God will return to Earth on the Sunship. After that, a new era will begin, and people will once again worship Him. But why was a door created that doesn't lead anywhere? Is there another way to enter? According to the ancient astronaut theory, the Gateway of the Gods is located at the end of a space tunnel. This type of gateway is capable of connecting different areas in the universe or a different dimension. A wormhole is a theoretical structure based on general relativity. Could it be that the ability to connect space and time on Earth with another part of space and time in the universe actually exists through a wormhole? If this structure were created, there would be shortcuts between distant parts of the universe. From this, we can see that the concept of wormholes is accepted in theoretical physics, as well as the idea that there may be ancient gateways that could actually be true. The cursed tablets at the bottom of the Athens well. Archaeologists from the German Archaeological Institute in Athens recently excavated cursed tablets found at the bottom of a well in the ancient Kerameikos Cemetery of Athens, revealing a different side of Greek history. This cemetery was known to be the most important burial site for ancient Athens. A total of about 30 well-preserved cursed tablets were found in an ancient well. Archaeologists believe that these tablets may date back to around 2,500 years ago. This ancient well was first excavated in 2016, where various everyday items such as cooking utensils, wooden objects, clay lamps, and copper coins were found. Jutta Stroschek, a researcher at the German Archaeological Institute, stated that the tablets date back to the 4th century BC during the reign of King Demetrius of Athens. At that time, a law was passed forbidding the burial of cursed tablets in graves. This prohibition likely led people to find ways to hide their curses, which explains why so many cursed tablets were found in this ancient well. The legendary sword in the stone of San Galgano. One of the most famous legends in the United Kingdom tells the story of King Arthur and the sword in the stone. According to various versions of the story, the sword could only be pulled from the stone by the true King of England. A similar but lesser-known tale comes from the Tuscany region in Italy. Some even suggest that this legend may have inspired the story of King Arthur. This is the story of the sword in the stone of a man named San Galgano. According to records, San Galgano was the first person to be officially canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. As a result, most of what is known about San Galgano's life comes from documents related to his canonization process. His canonization ceremony took place in 1185, just a few years after his death. Additionally, there are some later works documenting his life written by subsequent authors. San Galgano was born in 1148 in Chiusdino, in the province of Siena, Italy. It is believed that in his youth, San Galgano was only interested in worldly pleasures. Born into the nobility, he was a knight trained in combat with an arrogant and violent nature. However, everything changed when this knight became a hermit. San Galgano's transformation began with a vision of Archangel Michael, who is often depicted as a warrior god. In one version of the legend, Archangel Michael appeared before San Galgano and showed him the path to salvation. The angel even told him where he should go. The next morning, San Galgano declared that he would become a hermit and would live in a nearby cave. Naturally, San Galgano faced mockery from his family and friends, who probably thought he had lost his mind. San Galgano's mother, Dionysia, tried to persuade him to visit his fiancée one last time before renouncing all worldly pleasures. Dressed in his noble attire, San Galgano set out to meet his fiancée. On the way, his horse suddenly reared up and threw him off. Then, an invisible force caught him on his feet, and a divine voice led him to Monte Siepi, a hill near Chiusdino. When San Galgano reached the foot of the hill, he was told to stand still and look up at the top of Monte Siepi. He is said to have seen a vision of a round chapel with Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary, surrounded by the 12 apostles. The voice then instructed him to climb the hill, and the vision began to fade. When San Galgano reached the summit of Monte Siepi, the voice spoke again, commanding him to give up all worldly desires. However, San Galgano objected, claiming that this was as difficult as splitting a rock with a sword. To prove his point, San Galgano drew his sword and struck a rock. To his amazement, the sword pierced the rock like a hot knife through butter and became stuck there, never to be removed again. San Galgano clearly understood the message and lived as a hermit on Monte Siepi Hill from that moment onward. A few years after San Galgano's death, a small church was built on the summit of Monte Siepi, with the sword in the stone becoming a key feature that attracts tourists to the site. For centuries, the sword in the stone was believed to be a modern creation. However, recent research shows that the sword dates back to the 12th century, based on its metal composition and design. With the help of ground-penetrating radar, researchers also discovered that there is an empty cavity, 6.5 feet long and 3.3 feet wide, beneath the sword, possibly containing the body of San Galgano. Finally, using carbon dating on a pair of embalmed hands, another strange relic of the church, scientists confirmed that these also date back to the 12th century. According to one legend, the devil sent an assassin disguised as a priest to Monte Siepi. The wolves surrounding the hill, animals that San Galgano had helped, protected the saint and attacked the would-be assassin. After the assassin was killed, his hands were embalmed and later kept in the chapel. The mummy of the most beautiful lady in the world and the mystery behind it. Shock scientists. When talking about the best-preserved mummies in history, one cannot avoid mentioning the body of Maria Eva Duarte de Peron, the wife of Argentine President Juan Perón. Her life was full of struggles and hardships that cannot be fully described in words. Leaving this world at a young age, she was revered by the people like a goddess and was called the legendary woman, the mother of the nation, or even Saint Evita. Even after her death, she could not escape a turbulent fate, drifting for many years before finally resting in peace. Eva Maria Duarte, also known as Evita, was born on May 7, 1919, in the small town of Los Toldos, Argentina. From the moment she was born, she was not as fortunate as other children who grew up in a loving family. Evita had to endure a difficult childhood. Her father, who was already married, had an affair with her mother, resulting in 5 children, with Evita being the youngest. When she was 1 year old, her father abandoned the 6 of them to return to his legal wife. Besides the poverty and hunger they suffered, Evita also endured contempt from her peers who called her a bastard. At the age of 15, she met tango singer Agustin Magaldi when he performed in her hometown. Evita, feeling like she had found a lifeline, quickly agreed to follow Magaldi to Buenos Aires to begin her career on the stage. Evita's life took a completely different direction after a charity concert held to raise funds for earthquake victims in January 1944, which killed over 6,000 people. It was during this event that she met Colonel Juan Perón, 48 years old, twice her age. He had no children, and his first wife had passed away from cervical cancer 6 years earlier. In 1945, Colonel Juan Perón became vice president of Argentina, but with his newfound fame, he also gained many enemies. Rumors spread that Evita had once been a prostitute to support herself. The rumors caused a stir among Argentina's upper class. Whispers circulated that such a woman could enter high society. Like other powerful couples, people speculated that it was ambition, not love, that kept them together. On October 9, 1945, Vice President Juan Perón was forced to resign and was arrested. Evita remained calm and traveled throughout the country to campaign, calling on the public for support. Her speeches won the hearts of countless unemployed and resentful poor people. Mass protests by labor unions erupted across the country, demanding Juan's release. On October 17th, unable to withstand the pressure from the crowds, the opposition released him. 4 days later, Juan Perón and Evita married. Shortly after, he began planning his presidential campaign. On February 24, 1946, Juan won 52% of the vote and became the new president of Argentina, while Evita became first lady at just 26 years old. Naturally, as the nation's first lady, Evita did not forget her important responsibilities. She always sought welfare for the poor, children, and the elderly, and fought for women's equality. She also established the First Lady's Budget Organization and relief centers for the poor. In her role as First Lady, she worked tirelessly for the people. However, on January 9, 1949, an unexpected tragedy struck when doctors diagnosed her with cervical cancer. On the evening of July 24, 1952, at 8:25 p.m., she passed away at the age of 33, leaving millions of mourners throughout Argentina. After Evita's death, President Juan Perón was deeply sorrowful and decided to have her body embalmed so she could remain with him forever. The famous Argentine pathologist Pedro Ara, known as the artist of mummies, was entrusted with this task. He quickly began the process of embalming the beloved First Lady. All the blood in her body was replaced with pure alcohol and glycerin, a compound that could withstand temperatures up to 284 degrees. Alcohol drew moisture from the tissues, while glycerin helped keep the body looking lifelike. The body was preserved in a bronze coffin with a thick crystal covering worth $30,000 and displayed for the public to pay their respects. Over the next 2 years, Dr. Ara worked tirelessly until his masterpiece was complete. However, all plans for a monument to First Lady Evita failed when in 1955, her husband, President Juan Perón, was overthrown by the military and fled to Spain. Fearing that Evita's embalmed body would become a rallying point for the opposition, the military seized and secretly moved it. Dr. John Kreniauskas from the University of London stated, "Evita's body represented power, a symbol of political power, and she also represented women. Therefore, her body was something that everyone wanted. They hid it in a box, and soldiers concealed it in a secret location. Initially, the military command responsible for protecting her body refused to keep it at their base, so the coffin was hidden in a wooden crate labeled as containing radio equipment, stored in a truck in Buenos Aires, at the city's waterworks, behind a movie theater, and even on the attic floor of a military intelligence facility. Yet somehow, news always leaked. During this time, the coffin was rumored to have been kept in the house of an army lieutenant. Some rumors claimed that this lieutenant shot his wife because she was jealous of the time he spent with Evita's body. Ultimately, it was believed that no place in Argentina was safe for the body, and the government ordered it to be transported to Europe. The coffin containing Evita's body was sent to Bonn, West Germany, where it was buried in the embassy's garden. It was later moved to Milan and buried in a cemetery under the alias Maria Maggi. In 1971, the body was exhumed and returned to her husband, who was living in Spain with his third wife, Isabel. During these years, her body was kept in a chapel on the attic floor. By this time, her embalmed body had deteriorated significantly. After nearly 2 decades of wandering, Evita was finally returned to her homeland, alongside her now-deceased husband. When Juan Perón's third wife became president, she commissioned the construction of a memorial to place Evita's body next to that of the late President Juan Perón. In 1976, a military coup erupted. This time, Evita's body was secretly hidden by the family before it could be stolen again by the military. Ultimately, her journey ended in a marble tomb, 12 feet underground and bomb-proof, at the La Recoleta Cemetery, Buenos Aires. Since then, no one has seen the legendary woman of Argentina again. The most unique mummy in the world with a passport. Ramesses II, also known as Ramesses the Great, was one of the greatest pharaohs in the history of ancient Egypt. He ruled Egypt for an astonishing 66 years, an incredibly long period, and left a deep mark on the history of the country. Ramesses II was not only famous for his military victories, but also for his many monumental constructions, especially the Abu Simbel temples and the Ramesseum, which are symbols of his golden era. Under his leadership, Egypt achieved great victories in wars against powerful empires such as the Hittites in Anatolia and the Nubians. However, even though he passed away around 3,000 years ago, Ramesses II still holds a unique record that few would expect. He is the first and only pharaoh in history to have a passport. Yes, the mummy of Ramesses II is not only an extraordinary archaeological artifact, but it is also the only mummy in world history to have been issued a passport. This story began in 1974, when Egyptologists discovered that his body was deteriorating at an alarming rate at the Egyptian Museum. To protect the pharaoh's priceless remains, the researchers decided to send the mummy of Ramesses II to France for advanced preservation techniques. However, transporting an ancient pharaoh's mummy was no simple task. To process the departure paperwork, the authorities issued a passport for Ramesses II's remains, complete with a photo of his face and the note, "The king is deceased," in the occupation field. This was an incredibly unusual and fascinating moment in history, an ancient mummy being issued a passport for international travel. Ramesses II's mummy was transported to France in 1976 for preservation, which included using new technologies to stop the decay process and protect the body from the ravages of time. After the preservation work was completed, the mummy was returned to the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, where it remains on display for the public to view today. Have you ever thought that an ancient king could have a passport and travel abroad like this? This story is fascinating and a testament to the special attention that archaeologists and Egyptologists pay to valuable historical relics. Perhaps we are so used to passports that we don't realize even an ancient pharaoh needed proper documentation to travel abroad. Ramesses II was truly a remarkable figure, and every story about him contains mysteries that are yet to be fully solved. 2 mummies, suddenly found next to King Tutankhamun. The Valley of the Kings, Famous as the resting place of Egypt's pharaohs and queens, has long been a mysterious and intriguing site for archaeologists. Not only does it house magnificent tombs, but it also bears witness to a great civilization, where powerful kings were buried in grand tombs, accompanied by priceless artifacts. Among the famous mummies discovered in the Valley of the Kings, the well-preserved body of King Tutankhamun is one of the most outstanding findings. The discovery of Tutankhamun's body has given us a clearer understanding of the life, death, and legacy of this famous pharaoh. However, recently, archaeologists made a groundbreaking discovery when they found two new mummies at this site, and the discovery of these two mummies raised a big question for experts. Who are these individuals? Why were they not buried in the tombs constructed for pharaohs? In response to this question, experts say that according to initial research, these two mummies were not found in royal tombs like other mummies. This has posed a major challenge for the experts in identifying their identities. However, based on a few identifiable details, it is very likely they were close associates, officials, or had important roles in the royal court, but they were definitely not pharaohs. The lack of information about the tomb where they were buried has made the task of unraveling these mysteries even more difficult than ever. In addition to the mummies, archaeologists also uncovered remnants of several workshops and materials used in the embalming process. These discoveries have provided experts with valuable insights into ancient embalming techniques and the production technologies of that time. After thousands of years of history and the ravages of time, many artifacts are no longer intact, but they still provide crucial data to better understand the work and lives of the workers who helped build the royal tombs, the final resting places of the pharaohs. This is one of the key factors that allows archaeologists to reconstruct a comprehensive picture of a magnificent but mysterious culture. These artifacts not only reflect the level of artistry and craftsmanship, but also tell the stories of the laborers who were behind the success of these monumental works, even though they were never properly acknowledged in history books. So, what do you think about this discovery? Could we uncover more profound mysteries about the pharaohs, or perhaps an untold story about the workers of ancient Egypt? Let's reflect and look forward to more discoveries in the journey to unlock the history of one of the greatest civilizations in the world, ancient Egypt. The mummy that hides secrets, challenging genius. In 2014, archaeologists discovered a unique mummy on the banks of the Nile River in northern Sudan. What made this discovery so remarkable was the appearance of a tattoo on the thigh of the mummy, an unusual and rare mark. After conducting thorough examinations, experts realized that the tattoo was written in ancient Greek, and when transliterated, it read Michael. This led the scientific community to ask, how could a tattoo dating back 1,300 years bear a name in such a foreign language? Egyptologists at the British Museum suggest that this wasn't just a decorative tattoo, but could be a religious symbol meant to protect the soul of the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. This discovery becomes even more fascinating when considered in the context of an ancient culture where faith and soul protection played a key role in burial rituals. Could this tattoo be a connection between different cultures, or was it simply a religious symbol unique to that land? This question remains unanswered, and perhaps you too will reflect on the connections between ancient civilizations. Not stopping there, subsequent archaeological discoveries also sparked much curiosity. One special find occurred in 1915, when, during the excavation of a looted tomb at the Deir el-Bersha cemetery in Egypt, archaeologists discovered a severed head of a mummy missing its body, dating back 4,000 years. It wasn't until 2018 that the truth about the identity of this mummy was revealed with the help of the FBI. Through DNA analysis from the mummy's teeth, experts identified the head as belonging to Jehutinakht, an official and governor during ancient Egypt's 11th dynasty. However, before this result, many hypotheses had been proposed, leading people to reflect on the preservation methods for mummies and the burial ceremonies of ancient Egypt. Another mysterious story occurred in Nyarlarinc village, Hungary, where archaeologists discovered most of the ribs, shoulders, and arms of a child mummy holding a tarnished coin in an ancient cemetery. According to experts, the tomb dates from the 12th to 16th century. The child was uniquely embalmed. Upon the child's death, the body was placed in a jar and a coin was placed in its hand. This practice was based on the belief that the coin was payment to guide the soul of the deceased to the afterlife. Dr. Janos Balaz stated that the examination results showed that the deceased was a premature or stillborn child, measuring about 11 to 13 inches tall and weighing between 1.1 to 2.2 pounds. Moreover, this mummy had the highest copper content ever found, leading to new discoveries about ancient embalming methods. A perfectly preserved mummy from the 16th century. In 1949, in the town of Guano, Ecuador, archaeologists discovered a perfectly preserved mummy dating back to the 16th century. This discovery astonished archaeologists and experts, as ancient mummies typically degrade over time. However, in this case, the mummy of a man was preserved almost entirely intact. So, what allowed this mummy to be preserved for centuries? To answer this question, French pathologist Philippe Charlier, who previously studied the remains of dictator Adolf Hitler, conducted a research project on this mummy. Charlier stated that the mummy had revealed many intriguing secrets due to its remarkable state of preservation. Specifically, the mummy was placed in a dry and cold environment, which helped protect the body from the effects of time and environmental conditions. Thanks to this, researchers were able to learn detailed information about the health and ailments of the deceased. One surprising discovery was evidence of rheumatoid arthritis, a chronic autoimmune disease that causes joints and limbs to stiffen, swell, and become painful. Experts believe that this man may have lived with rheumatoid arthritis for a long time before passing away at the age of 85 to 90. Another unusual finding that perplexed archaeologists was the discovery of a mouse mummified and buried alongside the man. This raised many unanswered questions. Why was a mouse mummified and placed next to the body of a man who had died centuries ago? Could the mouse be part of a religious ritual? Or does it have some special significance that we have yet to understand? The identity of the man remains unknown, and archaeologists are still searching for evidence to determine who he was and why he was buried with a mouse. Nonetheless, this discovery has opened a new door in studying ancient burial rituals, helping us understand more about the spiritual world and beliefs of ancient cultures. Fascinating, isn't it? The mummy with the rarest square mask in history. At the Louvre Museum in Paris, there is an incredibly unique mummy with its face entirely wrapped in concentric square bands of fabric, which is completely different from the rest of the body. The unusual facial decoration raises the question, who was this person, and why was their face wrapped in such a way? The most notable feature of this mummy is the interwoven fabric strips that form concentric squares on its face. However, beneath the linen layers, the body is well preserved. According to X-rays conducted by the Louvre, the mummy is that of an adult man who lived during the Ptolemaic period, around 305 BCE to 30 BCE. He was wealthy enough to afford mummification after death in order to live on in the afterlife. The researchers at the museum don't know his name, but they speculate that it could have been Pacheri or Nenu. The mummy's face is wrapped in a square, concentric cardboard mask, while the body is still bound in fabric, with the shoulders wrapped thickly. From the chest to the knees, the mummy is adorned with an apron. The cardboard mask is a type of funerary mask used in ancient Egypt, decorating the dead from around 2181 BCE to 400 CE. Similar to paper mache, it was made from layers of linen or papyrus covered with plaster and painted. The head of the mummy is highlighted by a square mask, now placed next to the mummy, decorated with symbols of rebirth in ancient Egyptian culture. The collar of the mummy features images of the goddesses Nephthys and Isis, standing as protectors of the mummy. The necklace is made of beads with a hawk-shaped clasp. The length of the apron was once used to differentiate social class. Interestingly, the mummy is laid on a bed, surrounded by the goddesses Nephthys and Isis, along with the four sons of Horus, Imsidi, Duamutef, Hapi, and Kebesenuef. These four jars, containing the liver, stomach, lungs, and intestines, were believed to represent the four sons of the god Horus. Along with the mummy, the main internal organs were preserved in separate jars, excluding the heart and brain. The heart was removed from the body and placed in a jar because it was thought to represent the soul. Therefore, it was necessary to have the heart to enter the afterlife. The brain was considered the source of bodily fluid, so it was discarded to reduce liquid in the body. On the mummy's shroud are two images of the god Anubis and Anpu, gods of the cemetery and embalming. This deity was often seen on mummies, as he would weigh the soul of the deceased to determine whether it was light enough to enter the afterlife. Today, we know that there were different mummification processes. Around 450 BCE, the Greek historian Herodotus described the various mummification processes in detail. He described the perfect process as one where the brain was removed through the nostrils, and the internal organs, which are more prone to decay, were also taken out. The organs were then placed in jars. The body was cleansed with palm oil and the finest tree resins mixed with black wine and other spices, excluding eucalyptus. Finally, the body was wrapped in linen and dipped in resin or rubber, then returned to the family, placed in a wooden box. During the mummification process, priests placed many amulets between the layers of fabric. Perhaps Pancheri or Nenu underwent a similar mummification process. Looking at the mummy's wrappings, it's clear that this man was wealthy. Not everyone in ancient Egypt was as fortunate as him. Many people were buried in the desert with only a few simple offerings. Initially, the mummification process was not as complex. In fact, bodies were simply wrapped in linen and dipped in resin for better preservation. Over time, the mummification and wrapping process became more sophisticated. Greco-Roman period mummies stand out with their complex woven fabrics, jewelry, masks, and cardboard coffins. During the Ptolemaic period, all of these elements were added to mummies before they were placed in coffins. Let's imagine this man for a moment. Who was he? The symbols, fabrics, and funeral items will tell us stories of his wealth, beliefs, and life. And you, if you had the chance to stand before this mummy, what would you think of the story behind that tightly wrapped face? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give the channel a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.